meeting.
If the first one goes okay, we'll have a quick second one. I would like to do it almost immediately, and we'll have a quick second meeting between President Putin and President Zelensky and myself if they'd like to have me there.
Recapping the top story, one person has been burned to death and 2 others shot and wounded in an attack on 2 e-hailing vehicles at Maponya Mall in Soweto. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
It's a very good morning to you in your SFM Sports Headlines. Soccer action. Kaizer Chiefs, they continue their perfect league start with a 1-0 win. And we also bring you the Springboks building up to the Wallabies clash. All this and more just before 6:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. A couple of breakdowns on Gauteng highways to watch for. One on the busy N3 North. The left lane is closed, running up to Modderfontein Road. And there's a breakdown around Allendale on the busy N1 southbound. So watch for that. The left lane closed there as well. Cross into Durban. If you're on the N2, heading up from Munsum, totally through towards the airport, all clear. It will start to slow down into the work zone at Westwood Mall. But at this stage, no major incidents. A lot of roadworks between Pietermaritzburg and Hilton along the N3 to cause some problems. And Cape Town, a crash on Baden-Powell Drive. It's heading between the N2 highway and Jeff K. Masemola, just at the bottom of Khayelitsha. A couple of vehicles involved there. And the N2 inbound from Khayelitsha, just building up past the airport and through towards the Pinelands area. Volumes just noticeably on the increase and speeds just slowing up on that section. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
It's just gone 8 minutes after 6, and today is Thursday, the 14th of August, 2025. Live from Auckland Park in Johannesburg, you're listening to SAFM 104 to 107. Welcome to it, the Thursday edition of the Morning Brief. Come, let's huddle together over the next 3 hours so we can inform and engage each other and, in the process, hopefully sharpen each other's perspectives on the key issues of the day. Among some of what we will tell you over the next 3 hours, flames of discontent seem to be raging all around us. A few examples: we wake up this morning to the aftermath of what was truly a violent scene outside Soweto's Maponya Mall, where what's believed to have been clashes between minibus taxi operators and e-hailing drivers has left one person dead and at least 2 vehicles torched. Just a few days ago, a Home Affairs building in the Germiston CBD in Gauteng burnt to ashes, allegedly by some of the residents of a block of municipal apartments who were resisting being evicted for refusing to pay rental. Not to mention the sense that the actions of groups like Operation Dudu and others, and the state's response thereto, or lack thereof, are forcing a reckoning with our sense of fidelity and commitment to the rule of law. And by many accounts, we don't seem to be faring very well on that score, our commitment to the rule of law. In our context, it would seem that lawlessness begets lawlessness. So groupings like Dudula, for example, say that they are taking it upon themselves to enforce the immigration laws that the state seems incapable of enforcing. But in the process, they are also accused of interfering with human rights as well as acting as vigilante groups. So it seems to be a bit of a vicious cycle. We seem to be stuck in a vicious cycle of lawlessness. At about 7:20, we will speak to Professor Situlego Matebesi, who is an associate professor and also an academic, the academic head of the Department of Sociology at the University of the Free State. Just analyzing that, our sense of lawlessness, this seeming and apparent vicious cycle where lawlessness begets lawlessness, right? Who knows what the response will be from the community around the Maponya Mall area you saw yesterday already. And how will that then be managed when the community is now responding to this violence that has been happening? And how is it possible that you have all of these incidents continuing to play themselves out? with so much lawlessness, really, in many instances. So we'll focus on that and give you some analysis from Professor Matebesi at about 7:20. So in that, we touch on the issue of migration policy, as well as that burnt down Home Affairs office in Germiston. So I'll be sure then to get the reaction there too from the Home Affairs Minister, Dr. Leon Schreiber, who will be my guest at about 9:15 this morning. Our conversation will largely be focused on a recently announced partnership with more banks, in this case Capitec and FNB in particular, to expand identity document services through the banks beyond the current 30 branches, right? So the target that the Home Affairs Department has is to have at least 1,000 bank branches offering Home Affairs service extensions by 2029 as the department moves towards what it calls a digital-first service delivery model. All well and good, but as we all can see, all of that will mean very little to many citizens if the fundamental questions being raised by many about migration policy are not addressed. And why? And that's why I will be engaging the minister partly about those particular issues. So that conversation coming up at about 9:15 this morning. Remember yesterday, we were meant to speak to the Government Pensions Administration Agency's Chief Executive, Giriboni Madiehe, and until she got cold feet and literally just bailed on us moments before we went on air. In fact, the number had been dialed, and at some point I was told she was on hold, and then it just fell apart. And we got all sorts of messages from them a bit later on explaining why the interview is not going ahead. But basically, bottom line is they got cold feet and didn't come on. Well, not to worry. The journalist on that story that they are now trying to, in a way, avoid talking about, News 24 investigative journalist Sekonati Manjanja will talk to me at about 6:50. That whole story has to do with the Government Pensions Administration Agency wanting and being prepared, signing up to pay close to R1 billion to a little-known entity known as Shula Developers for the provision of new office space for the pensions administrator. The only problem, of course, as I was saying yesterday, being that Shula does not seem to own the space that it has offered to the GPAA, but somehow it managed to win the tender against bidders who actually own the spaces that they were offering the GPAA and could prove that ownership. Sekonati Manjanja will speak to me at about 6:50 this morning about that story. Morning Brief team, to your stations please for the takeoff, and Musa at the news desk, Rob Byrne with your traffic. Zaikan has got your sports covered, and Melissa Puta with the Morning Brief in brief. Dauleng Lechela has your business and market updates throughout the morning, and Sipho Mandula with your Africa update just before 7 a.m. at about 7:20. In all of this, of course, I want you to engage. I'd love for you to be a part of the conversation. Do give me a call, 086 000 2032. Your WhatsApp voice notes, please send them to 0614 104 107. Let's get the Thursday edition of the Morning Brief underway.
We plan for vacations, retirement, and even tonight's dinner. But do we plan for our health? It's how we protect our family's future. So who are you staying healthy for? And how can you protect their future? Choose Dis-Chem Life, the life cover that helps you live a healthier, more rewarding life with health checks and extra rewards. Visit dischemlife.co.za now. Dis-Chem Life. Choose a better partner for life. Dis-Chem Life is an authorized FSP 50594, underwritten by Guardrisk Life, a licensed life insurer, FSP 76. T's and C's apply.
What is Overtrail? Is it off the beaten path, over the edge of comfort, or the thrill of the road less taken? It's over every bridge, every obstacle, every trail, and over to that view that takes your breath away. Overtrail means going further, exploring deeper, surrounded by the comfort and sophistication of a luxury SUV. It's this spirit that inspired the Overtrail project. Experience Overtrail in the LX and GX range. Lexus. Experience amazing.
When your internet connection fails, does it really matter how fast it is? Business class internet is built for businesses. With remote monitoring, that means faster problem resolution and a backup LTE connection that keeps you online. Your company deserves business class internet because just reboot the router isn't a business strategy. Find reliability at vodacombusiness.co.za. Together, let's build the extraordinary. Further together. Vodacom Business.
The national elephants have to illustrate that they can rise with victory, but the desert foxes believe they will find the path to the quarterfinals. This is the Total Energies African Nations Championship 2024. Catch Guinea versus Algeria this Friday, 15 August at 4 p.m. Live everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
Yeah, kicking us off, as always, on our journey is Melissa Puta with the Morning Brief in brief. Melissa, good morning. Let's start with the MK party and former President Jacob Zuma knocked on the doors in Braamfontein, and those doors didn't open for them in terms of this challenge that they wanted to bring up against various actions of President Cyril Ramaphosa. They are now knocking at the door of the High Court in Pretoria.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. Yes, so former President Jacob Zuma and the MK party have filed an urgent application in the Pretoria High Court against President Cyril Ramaphosa following a failed attempt to gain direct access to the Constitutional Court. They are challenging Ramaphosa's decision to place Minister Senzo Mchunu on special leave and the appointment of Professor Feroz Putalia as acting police minister, and the establishment of the Madlanga Commission, calling all of these acts unconstitutional and invalid. Zuma argues that the case is urgent and raises serious constitutional issues, including executive overreach, judicial misconduct and misuse of public funds. He accuses Ramaphosa of acting unlawfully and shielding ministers from accountability. The Constitutional Court had earlier declined to hear the matter, stating it did not fall within its exclusive jurisdiction. The case is now set to be heard by the High Court on the 26th of August, so we will follow this to see how this goes.
Yeah, I saw their filings. They run into the hundreds. I think it's about 300 pages to wade through, so maybe one needs to make time at some point and sit and give it a good read. Some 300 pages or thereabouts. At the same time, while we're talking about the courts, tell me about the process to try and get justice for the killing of AKA.
The trial of the murder of rapper Keenan Forbes, also known as AKA, and businessman Tibilo Motswane, has been scheduled for July of 2026. 5 men face charges including conspiracy to commit murder and firearm offenses. The case, stemming from February 2023 shooting on Durban's Florida Road, returned to Durban High Court for a pre-trial conference yesterday. The defense is still awaiting witness statements. The matter is postponed to the 19th of June 2026 for further pre-trial proceedings, with the trial set for the 20th of July, the 21st of August, the 20th of July to the 21st of August, and the 5th of October to the 6th of November in 2026. So this will be another one that we will look forward to see how this unfolds.
Yeah, inching ever closer to getting to the crux of the matter, the trial stage of that particular case. And then these events that happened last night outside Maponya Mall.
So this is quite a sad one that we went to sleep following. Law enforcement agencies are investigating the tragic events that unfolded outside Maponya Mall on yesterday evening, where e-hailing drivers were targeted. This resulted in the death of 1 driver and injuries to 2 others. According to reports, 4 unknown gunmen believed to be taxi drivers shot and killed 1 e-hailing driver and injured another driver and a passerby, and torched 2 vehicles at the scene. Police police have opened cases of murder, attempted murder, and arson with suspicions of taxi violence involvement. The incident follows recent protests by e-hailing drivers in Gauteng over high commission fees and poor working conditions. So we will follow this one to see how the department deals with this moving further.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. That's Melissa Puta with the Morning Brief in brief this morning.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
On the weather front, here's what we can tell you. Pretoria will be fine with a minimum of 7 and a maximum of 24. Johannesburg fine, 8 to 24. Mbombela will have fog in the morning, otherwise fine with a minimum of 11 and a maximum of 26. Polokwane fine, 8 to 25. Mahikeng will be fine, becoming partly cloudy in the afternoon, 7 to 25. Bloemfontein will be fine, becoming partly cloudy in the afternoon with isolated showers and thunder showers, 8 to 23. Kimberley, partly cloudy and windy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 11 to 26. Uppington, partly cloudy and windy, 8 to 27. Cape Town, partly cloudy, 9 to 20. George, partly cloudy, 7 to 17. Gqeberha will be partly cloudy, becoming cloudy with isolated showers and rain in the evening, 11 to 20. East London will be partly cloudy with isolated showers and rain, 15 to 22. Durban will be partly cloudy in the morning, otherwise fine with a minimum of 16 and a maximum of 24. Richards Bay, partly cloudy in the morning, otherwise fine, 15 to 28. And lastly, Pietermaritzburg will be partly cloudy with a minimum of 9 and a maximum of 28.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
So a major political controversy erupting in India as opposition parties led by the Congress Party's Rahul Gandhi accused the Election Commission of India, the ECI, of vote theft during the 2024 general elections. The allegations have sparked street protests, parliamentary disruptions, and a growing debate over the integrity of the country's democratic institutions. Let's welcome Aisha Kaji, who is a political analyst and research fellow at Africa-Asia Dialogues, who joins me now for analysis on that situation. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time, Aisha. So, what do we understand to be at the heart of the gripe by Rahul Gandhi and the Congress Party about the vote and how it was undertaken? I just took time to watch some Indian news television, which is a phenomenon on its own, and how dramatically they can present the issues that are being debated. It's a vigorous and fierce debate. What's at the heart of it?
Well, I think at the heart of it is this allegation of vote theft, right? Gandhi has alleged very widespread voter manipulation. He cited granular data which has been obtained from the electoral body itself, the ECI, the Electoral Commission of India. And the ECI dispute his interpretation of this data, but it does seem to be that from the data that he's actually presented, that there was at least some vote rigging, because when the BJP-led alliance secured, the third term for Mr. Modi, they had predicted that voter turnout would be around 66%. And remember, this is the world's largest democracy. So Gandhi specifically cited data for a part of the Bangalore Central Parliamentary constituency. And he claimed that the voter list had more than 100,000 entries that were manipulated, including duplicate voting. He showed duplicates of the ballot papers. He showed invalid addresses, for example, addresses where nobody appeared to live, and bulk registrations of votes at single locations. So, he presented examples. For example, one voter that he brought up was somebody called Shakun Rani, who he claimed had cast her ballots twice. And he showed that there were two ballots for the same person cast in different parts of the same constituency. He also alleged that there was a lot of CCTV footage from the actual polling booths that was deleted, and he questioned why that footage was deleted. He pointed out instances where 80 people were registered at a single address in some locations.
So
we saw similar stuff to this happen. For example, in Zimbabwe about 20 years ago.
I was about to say.
I was actually there as an election observer and went with a TV station.
I was actually there.
Where people were registered to be living. It was an open plot of land, the same kind of thing.
Coincidentally, Aisha, the story you're talking about, it's exactly the story I also covered. I think at one small shack, we reported 77 people registered to that small shack, but no person lived there, you could tell.
And who actually brought out that data?
Yeah.
That was me.
Yeah.
Because remember at the time, the voter roll, when they finally provided it to us 2 days before the election, it was not in a format that you could search. It was in a PDF format.
Yes,
and
I remember that.
I sat practically the whole night going through that voter roll. And when I found this, whoever I saw from the media, I think it was a BBC reporter and an SABC reporter, and I said, come, let's go and see.
I was that SABC report. But lastly, Aisha, let's just go back to this India story. What does it all mean then for the hold on power that Narendra Modi has and his BJP party?
Well, look, I think he still has a hold on power, but that hold on power is declining as the electorate realizes that there are inconsistencies not only in things like the elections and manipulation of the elections, etc., but there are inconsistencies between the party line that Mr. Modi and his BJP party talk in Parliament and what they're actually doing in certain constituencies and certain parts of the country. So what I'm saying essentially, and this is perhaps true of many democracies around the world, including our own, is that what is said in the election manifestos and in the policies that are purported to be put through by a specific government is not necessarily what happens on the ground.
Yeah.
And when people witness this consistent and continual, lack of basically upholding the election manifesto, the promises made in the party's manifesto, the promises made that appear to be made through policy making and yet never get implemented on the ground, particularly with regard to social service delivery issues, then voters become apathetic in some cases, but many also become resentful.
All right.
Because at the end of the day, a political party in power, a government that has been elected, is meant to serve the interests of the electorate.
I do need to leave it there.
Unfortunately, that often doesn't happen in practice.
I've got to leave it there. Thank you for your time this morning. That's Aisha Kaji, who is political analyst and research fellow at Africa Asia Dialogues.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Good morning. Let's kick it off with Kaizer Chiefs making it 2 wins in a row. That's Betway Premiership action. 1-0 was the scoreline over Polokwane City at the FNB Stadium last night. Amakosi dominated early possession but couldn't convert. The breakthrough coming in the 79th minute when Thulasizwe Simelane slotted home a well-worked goal. And here's the Chiefs assistant coach, Cedric Kazi.
In the second half, we had more control of the game, more tempo, and as well as we said even last game, we are happy that our players are coming from the bench. They make an impact. Yeah, even today they made an impact, and as well that we can't forget that this is a game. This is the second game in 3 days. Physically, was very, very tough for everyone.
Other matches saw Durban City. Also, they struck late to defeat Chippa United 1-0 and that happened at the Chatsworth Stadium last night. In the meantime, John Maduka maintaining his unbeaten start at the helm of Magesi after they came from behind to earn a 1-1 draw against Stellenbosch at the Seshego Stadium. Golden Arrows edging Richards Bay 1-0, Sekhukhune United downing TS Galaxy by the same scoreline. In the African Nations Championship, Mauritania shocking Burkina Faso 1-0 and Madagascar cruising to a 2-0 win over the Central African Republic. On to rugby, and it was Cameron Honeycomb and Wilco Low, the big winners at the Bulls Player Awards in Pretoria last night. The number 8 Honeycomb was named Fans Player of the Year, Champions Cup Forward of the Year, Champions Cup Player of the Year, and Vodacom URC Forward of the Year. Now, Low's heroics in the front row earned him the URC Player of the Year award, along with the Senior MVP title. Now, Sizopila Solonsi, who departed with the Springbok women's squad for the Women's World Cup today, claimed a double, being named the Bulls Daisies Player of the Year as well as the MVP. And finally, golf. Rory McIlroy says he rejected the idea of being a playing captain at the future Ryder Cup straight away, as he believes it would be very difficult. The world number 12, Keegan Bradley, was picked to captain the United States in 2024 after the 15-time major champion Tiger Woods turned down the role. But after strong form in 2025, including 9 top 20 finishes, the 2011 US PGA champion is 10th in the American rankings for a team that will be made up of 6 automatic qualifiers and 6 wildcards. Here's Keegan.
You can't expect to be on the team unless you're in the top 6. So, my goal is to go out there, whether I was Ryder Cup captain or not this week, and play well and play well at the Tour Championship as well. So, there's definitely a lot more on my plate here these next couple of weeks. The Ryder Cup has always been so far away, and now it's right there. So things are definitely amping up, but I still have a lot to prove, just as well as everyone around me on the list.
And we'll be back, top of the hour, with more sport. I'm Zai Khan.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, Gauteng Roads and Transport MEC Kidiboni Diale-Tlabella has described last night's taxi-related violence at Maponya Mall in Soweto as senseless, unacceptable and a direct threat to the safety and stability of the public transport system. One person was killed and 2 others injured in an attack on e-hailing vehicles by unknown suspects. The former municipal manager of the Umzimkhulu municipality, accused of the murder of former ANC Youth League Secretary General Sindiso Magaka, is expected to apply for bail. 55-year-old Stanley Skosana was arrested last month in Durban by the Political Killings Task Team. And the Khoisan leaders of South Africa say Khoi and San communities have been excluded from the upcoming first national convention meant to kickstart the national dialogue. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM. Guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Here's the big one in Joburg. It's a crash in on the M1 North, driving up into Bayers Nordia. Traffic already parking back through 14th Avenue and working back to Gordon Road. If you're out of Soweto this morning, factor in some heavy queue time or hop onto some alternative routes. Mike 1, Gold Reef City up to Empire Road, busy, but that's fairly standard these days for this time of morning. Pretoria's Dustport Tunnel coming off Bremer down through Transwaranya. Very slow through the tunnel, a little bit slower than you might be expecting again for this time of day. Durban, the N2 South from Umgina Road, Spaghetti Junction, slow. That probably points to a breakdown. And if you're driving into Cape Town, there's been a crash on Nelson Mandela Boulevard after Hospital Bend. So the route is quite busy anyway, coming in from the airport towards Hospital Bend, and then you stay in traffic down to about the Rudeblum exit. Also, a collision on Baden-Powell Drive this morning, just around Jafta Masemola. Baden-Powell being held both directions into that scene. It's the bottom of Khayelitsha, just south of the N2 highway. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Business Update on SAFM.
So for the first update of the morning, let's turn to Ndauleng Lechela, who's got that update for us. Good morning to you, Ndauleng. Tell me about Tencent's their Q2 performance. You're saying that it has topped market expectations.
Morning to Lazna. The gaming giant delivered a 15% jump in revenue for the second quarter, And this was due to a strong showing from its gaming unit and AI investments paying off. Tencent's domestic games revenue rose 17% thanks to the success of newly released games like Delta Force and popular titles like Honor of Kings. Now, the company's international gaming business also saw a 35% increase in revenue. AI-driven improvements to Tencent's advertising platform and Weixin transaction ecosystem helped boost marketing services revenue by 20% in the quarter. The company's CEO, Ma Haoteng, attributed the growth to investments in and benefits from using AI. Tencent's music unit also performed well with 124 million music subscribers and strong growth in subscription and non-subscription online music revenue. Looking ahead, the group is focused on driving high-quality growth in subscription revenues and leveraging AI to power more use cases within Weixin and upgrade its Hun Yuan Foundation models. The company is also expanding its cloud computing capabilities to Europe, competing with US counterparts like Amazon, Microsoft, and Google.
And things are looking up for Grindrod as well.
That's right. Tulas, the logistics group expects earnings to more than double. This comes as it moves forward with its plans to slim down its core activities and divest non-core assets with the sale of its stake in marine fuel trading business, Cocket, and consolidation of ownership in the Matata terminal, contributing to a once-off net profit of 903 million rands. Grindrod's efforts to shed non-core assets, including the disposal of Grindrod Bank and sale of North Coast property-backed loans, have helped shelter its balance sheet from a challenging operational environment. The group's core operations are expected to deliver headline earnings broadly in line with the previous comparable period, around 562 million rands. It says its strategic decisions and asset disposals have positioned it for growth, and the stronger earnings are an encouraging indicator for its future prospects.
Lastly, Ntaoleng, recap for us how we closed yesterday and the tone that has been set this morning.
So stocks extended gains in yesterday's session as traders continue to bet on a Fed rate cut come September, and that optimism sent stocks to record highs. The Dow Jones breaking through another milestone overnight, up over 1%. The upbeat mood was also seen here at home. In local markets, the all share hitting all-time highs as well, up close to 1%. This was mainly due to gains from the industrials, with heavyweights, Naspers, and Process benefiting from Tencent's performance. Now, in the currency scene, the rand retreating from a level last seen in November, steadying to 17.52 to the greenback this morning, and oil also steady at the $65 per barrel mark. And then lastly, in Asia, markets taking a bit of a breather and starting the day mainly in the red.
All right, thank you for that. That's Ntaoleng Lechela with the first update of the morning. She'll be back just after 7:30.
Africa Update on SAFM.
Let's say good morning to Advocate Sipho Mantula. Raz, let's start in Gabon, in Libreville. So an interesting development there, the pursuit of national unity and reconciliation. So as a result, all is forgiven for those who participated in two coups, at least one coup and another attempt.
Refreshing morning to Tulas and Jumbo Africa to the listeners. Tulas, the current president, Bryce Oligui Nguema, and his council of ministers, this week they have adopted what they call a sweeping amnesty order, covering for those who were involved in the attempted coup in 2019 as well as in 2023. But in 2023, Tulas, we know that Bryce Nguema was behind it also, but he has given those soldiers who were involved, people like Obiang, Minkoma, Bedima, those who were sentenced for 15 years for the 2019 rebellion, have been also given a blanket amnesty. Also, I mean, this council tool has had to touch on the economic reforms, creating jobs for the Gabonese citizens. So this amnesty law tool, it went broadly as the council was looking at how to overhaul economy of Gabon.
And I see that M7 is in Cairo.
You were Mr. Venice in Cairo talking to Abdullah Fattah el-Sisi Thulas, and in their talks, so what dominated it is what we have been saying is a vocal point of geopolitical tension in East Africa and North Africa. Ethiopia and Egypt, Thulas, they've been on this contestation of the great Renaissance Dam. What Ethiopia has been contesting with Sudan, Egypt and Ethiopia, as they are raising this issue that Museveni and Abdullah Sisi, they were raising the issue that Cairo will say it will protect its country's water security. Thulas, this is a long-standing battle because it's not only the three countries, you still have the upstream and the downstream nations who are contesting for this water. It will remind you, Thulas, if you remember Boutros Ghali, that the wars of 21st century will also be around the water conflicts.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's touch on a situation we haven't checked on in a while. The situation in Haiti. Tell me about what this man known as Barbecue has been saying after being indicted by a federal court in the U.S.
Thulas, Jimmy Cheriza, also known as Barbecue, has openly challenged the U.S. FBI indictment and also the issue of $5 million bounty that those who can assist in the arresting of this gang leader from Haiti. But if you look at the current laws, Thulas, U.S. and Haiti, they don't have extradition agreement. So it will be difficult. How will you arrest Barbecue? As he went on a video, said if the FBI wants him, he's here in Haiti. This has been a highly contested battle, Thulas, in Haiti, as we have looked at the gang violence. But the U.S. coming very clear with sanctions, coming up with what we can call a money tip to say those who can arrest Barbecue will be given a $5 million reward. But it appears Barbecue is not relenting, Thulas. He's still in Port-Prince in Haiti.
Yeah. And lastly, Sipho, your historical archive. It was a pivotal day, wasn't it, in 1989, the 14th of August?
It's 36 years ago, Thulas. We know that the following day, on the 15th, FW de Klerk was sworn in as acting president. It means that P.W. Botha resigned as a state president on this day, Thulas. So due to ill health, Thulas had a minor stroke that led to him to be admitted. But also there were two things, Thulas. There was a political pressure. There was a economic and diplomatic isolation of South Africa. Hence, he was under pressure to resign or relinquish power, and that's where FW de Klerk was sworn in as acting president on the following day, on the 15th of August 1989. Asante sana, Thulas, as we're still in the conversation, SFM observing the Women's Month.
Sipho, thank you for that. And as Sipho is mentioning there, the resignation of P.W. Botha, the accounts of the meeting, the last cabinet meeting, are fascinating, where it is said that he went across the room asking each and everyone to say, what's your view? Do you think I should step down? Do you think my time is up? Absolutely fascinating bit of history there.
Last year's finalists, Stellies, are on a mission to graduate to this year's final, while Babina Nuku want to do the talking on the battlefield. This is the MTN8 First Leg Semi-Final. Wafa Wafa. Don't miss out on Stellenbosch FC versus Sekhukhune United on Saturday, 16 August at 5:30 p.m. Live on SABC1 and SABC Plus. Also available on SABC radio stations at 6 p.m. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Do you know what's hiding behind the colorful packaging of unhealthy food? Big food companies target children with unhealthy packaged foods that hide high levels of sugar, salt, and fat, which could lead to heart disease, diabetes, and hypertension. But the truth is hidden from consumers. Front of package warning labels are a proven solution to help consumers make informed decisions. The government must act now. We have the right to know what's in our food. Demand front of package warning labels. Sign the petition on heala.org, HEALA.org, by the 30th of September.
Four-time World Rugby champions, the Springboks, want to emphasize their winning mentality. However, the Wallabies are going all out to upset the reigning global champs. This is the Rugby Championship. Experience world-class rugby action. South Africa collides with Australia on Saturday, 16 August at 5:10, live on SABC radio stations. Also available on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Do great solutions start with good conversation? SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
7:15 on this Thursday. Let's bring you an update on that situation playing itself out at Maponya Mall, just outside Maponya Mall in Soweto last night. Scenes of violence there that left one person dead and we're told at least 2 others injured, and a couple of vehicles torched in what is believed to have been violence between minibus taxi operators and e-hailing drivers. I'm joined now by Thabang Moloi, who is a Pimville community member who is going to share some perspectives from the community. Good morning to you, Thabang, and thank you for your time this morning. What happened last night? We saw these violent scenes and cars on fire. What was behind it and what happened?
Okay, first let me introduce myself. My name is President Thabang Moloi, President of the Ground Forces in Soweto. I'm here at Maponya Mall as I speak to you now. What really transpired yesterday is just that we had some gunshots, and then when we go out and we saw some Uber Bolt, they were on fire. Several people, about 4 people were shot, 1 dead, burned in the car, 2 cars were burned. That's what has transpired yesterday. We, to be honest, as the community, we don't really know what really happened, who fighting who. But our concern as the community, really, we don't care about that. We only care about our life. Their fights, whoever is fighting who, we don't care about that one. We only care about our community, because of our community are customers at Maponya Mall. So what is really worrying us is that now, because of yesterday, we had a certain Uber. He was carrying a passenger, and then he was missed with 5 bullets. Both of them survived, and never got injured. And so the problem that we are facing is that this is not for the first time that is happening.
Yeah.
So the management of Maponya Mall, I'm telling you, they know this. They knew this was coming, and then they turned a black eye because of they don't want to listen to the people. So that's the reason that makes it.
Why do you say that the Maponya Mall management knew it was coming, and why do they bear responsibility for it?
Yeah, because it's not. They're the ones that they should take a stand on this.
How?
The Maponya Mall management. Look, last time it was a rumor that it was cases against Ubers. Again, it's the very same rumor. What happened during for the past 2 weeks? The taxi guys told the Uber guys to go and wait on the gates. They must not come inside because of they are paying rent there. You understand?
Thabang, I'm trying to understand what it is that you are expecting of the Maponya Mall management as opposed to other players like law enforcement and the likes. Yeah.
We are saying as the Maponya Mall, we are the ones who can direct this to say everybody stop, go outside. You understand? The other one can do that.
Okay.
They have to keep the customer safe. They have the power to take that decision.
To kick out the taxi operators as well as the e-hailing drivers.
And both of them must be kicked out so that we must be shopping free.
All right.
That's what we are crying for.
All right. So what response are you contemplating as a community to raise your concerns?
We are just gathering now as a community.
To do what?
So we will take a decision.
Okay.
No, we want to close them all, to be honest with you, because they don't listen to us. We want to close them all. We just want to say the mall must just close.
But is that an appropriate, Thabang? Closing the mall, is that an appropriate response to an incident such as this one, as opposed to demanding that law enforcement must do their job?
Let me tell you something. I mean, you know, our law enforcement has failed us. You know, you yourself, you don't have confidence in our law enforcement. You yourself, you know what is happening with our police. You understand? I mean, the visibility of on such a big mall, they should have been here almost every day.
Gotcha. Yeah.
This is a big mall. They shouldn't be expected to be called to say there is a crime, then come.
All right, Thabang, let's leave it there for today. Thank you for your time this morning. That's Thabang Moloi, who is a member of the community out in Pimville, responding to the violent scenes that we saw last night outside Maponya Mall.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Very good morning. Not one but two crash scenes on the M1 North between 14th Avenue and Bayers Nordia. Heavy backlogs. Motorists coming out of Soweto this morning will find the backlog of that queue down around sort of the Albertina Sisulu exit. It is very heavy. You might want to give yourself plenty of time or get onto alternative routes to avoid that N1 North jam-packed up to Bayers Nordia today. A lot of congestion around the Crown interchange. A little bit unusual. The Mike 1 from Boysons through to Oxford Road in Parktown is heavy. Going southbound, there's a queue into Crown, and the M2 coming across from Joe Slovo to get into that Mike 1, all badly backed up as well. N3 from the Elans up to Van Buren looking quite slow. Possibly something's broken down or crashed ahead of Galuli's interchange. Busy on Bremer Street coming out of Pretoria down the Dustport Tunnel option onto Trans-Oranje. And the Mopani Highway busy for Thursday. Traffic queuing already back to Theo Martin's. Crash coming in from the south coast up into Durban this morning. It's just by Doonside, between Doonside and the Munsum Toti. It's in the left lane. Just a little bit of onlooking causing a delay there. Peter Maritzburg down to Durban, checks fine, clear, no major problems. Cape Town dealing with a crash on Baden-Powell Drive between Jeff Decay Masimola and the N2. There is a backlog if you're heading towards Stellenbosch on that route, and a crash on Nelson Mandela Boulevard through Hospital Bend down by Ruderblom Road. So that's causing a backlog basically from the airport. It's pretty solid all the way to Hospital Bend and through the Bend down towards that crash scene. And there's just been a crash on the M1 inbound before Hill-Basson, slowing you up coming off the Plattercliff Hill section towards town as well. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Keeping your family healthy this winter can feel like a daunting task. Try the Lung Shield range. It includes capsules to support healthy lungs and immunity, a syrup for kids that supports the immune system and promotes lung health, and an effervescent with 13 essential ingredients to optimize immune function. Put your family's health first this winter with the Lung Shield range. Available without a prescription at leading pharmacies. Lung Shield, prescribed by doctors, recommended by pharmacists.
There's a song that goes, "Money can't buy me love." And that's true. But then they told us all you need is love, which anybody with a mortgage will tell you most certainly is not true. Love won't pay your parking tickets or your student loan. It's also needy. It requires effort, availability, constant care. But more importantly, love requires time. And while money can't buy you love, it can certainly free up some of your time. Time to spend on the things you love, with the people you love. And if you're looking, maybe even time to find the one you love. That's why, after 50 years of investing, we've learned that time is the greatest gift of all. And the good news is, if you invest early, time gives you money. And then money gives you more time to do the things you love. And don't you love that about investing? Ellen Gray, long-term investing. Ellen Gray is an authorized FSP.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
A quick update now on the situation that played out in Matata yesterday, where emergency medical services were urgently dispatched to Thulasizwe Agricultural School in Ngeleni in the Eastern Cape yesterday, following a suspected mass food poisoning incident. Approximately 131 learners required medical attention and were transported to the Nelson Mandela Academic Hospital in Mthatha, the Mthatha Regional Hospital and the Ngangelizwe Community Healthcare Center. Let's welcome Dokolanisi, who is Premier General of the Abatembu Kingdom. Good morning to you and thank you for your time. Are we any clearer as to what happened yesterday? What led to what appears to have been a mass food poisoning incident?
Good morning, Bramalu. At the moment, we are unclear of the origination or the source of the food poisoning. But however, upon our interviews with the teachers and the learners that had been medicated and were actually stable, we got to find out that the day before yesterday, there was an event to which Musho and Musho would be Semp, and chicken was catered to the students, and then it seems as if it's not certain for sure. We are yet to find out. It seems as if all those that have eaten the Goldie chicken are the ones that actually later ended up in hospital. But we are uncertain if it's the origination is that or not. But however, we are conducting an independent
Mhm.
investigation, and also, Putmalu, it's no longer 131; it's 141 plus
Mm.
learners.
So more people that needed to be taken to hospital and to be treated. And what's the condition of those that were taken to hospital and are being treated?
At the moment, we can confirm that only one remained in Nelson Mandela Academic Hospital due to complications that she faced. It's a young woman, a young lady at the age of 17 years old. By the way, the ages of these learners, I'm sure you are about to ask me that question. The ages of these young learners is from the youngest is 14 to the eldest being 22.
And is the school a kind of boarding school, such that they would have eaten common food, if you know what I mean, as opposed to coming from different homes? Yeah.
No, the school is not a boarding school per se, but it does have hostels, which are outside the school. However, we can confirm that there's one learner who doesn't live in hostels. In fact, there's several learners that do not live in hostels, but however, they were brought to hospital, and one was taken to the surgery of the of Dr. Songa. One learner who lives with her mom and doesn't live in the hostels, but are outside the school. So at the moment, every sign points out to the school's nutrition. So we're unsure if maybe it's the vendors or it is the food that everybody ate, because at the current moment, the only thing that we can link all the students to is the food that they ate the day before yesterday.
So you're saying the only common thing that you can pick up is food that they ate, and are you saying that that's part of the school nutrition program, is it?
Yes, sir. But however, there was an event, I think it was an awards event, where there was catering that was administered that had chicken from Goldie.
Yeah. Is this something that has happened before in the area, or has the area had any concerns about food quality and contamination of food? You know, the issues that we've been dealing with as a country over the last few years.
Not that we know of, Butmalu. This has been a shocker. The only thing that we picked up from teachers is that the only illnesses that students have that side that are common is just asthmatic attacks.
Okay. All right. No, thank you for keeping us updated and that comprehensive report back on the situation as you are observing it. That's Ncedo Kolanisi, who is Premier General of the Abatembu Kingdom.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
All right, let me take one or two of your reactions. One has to do with that situation that happened outside Maponya Mall, but also some of what I said at the start of the show, that we will focus on, what appears to be currents of discontent, as well as concerns about our fidelity to, the rule of law, and what appears to be cycles and a vicious cycle of lawlessness that does seem to be playing itself out in pockets of our country.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. It's Fuana from Japan. Thulasizwe, when it comes to this thing of e-hailing, it will never be fixed, because under the administration of this thing of Jacob Zuma was able to listen to us. Department of Transport and Labour went and spoke to the e-hailing companies and also to the taxing industry, and we were fine. Under Ramaphosa's administration, it is as do as you please. The e-hailing companies are exploiting us. Taxis are back now extorting us as well. And no one wants to come and listen to us from the beginning, before this nonsense of GNU.
Good morning, Pratulas Mbongo Sondisa here. Pratulas, Operation Tutula should also monitor the security industry, the cleaners, restaurant. Those are not scarce skills. They are not supposed to, not allowed to work in those industries. Please, man. Can Operation go to those sites, restaurants, malls, and check these people? More especially in the security industry. They are there. in numbers. Thanks.
All right, thank you for that. And I think that really drives the point home, doesn't it? That conversation that we will pick up after the news. Why should it be Operation Dudu that does law enforcement in a country where we have institutions that are, clothed with the wherewithal, the authority to be able to do all of this? Why does it fall on an organization like Operation Dudu, with the result that it then faces the kind of allegations that it faces of vigilantism and the likes? That's the conversation we will pick up after the news with N. Musa.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Time to switch and save. Call 0800 60,000 today.
In our top stories, Gauteng MEC slams Soweto taxi violence as senseless, and a former municipal manager linked with Makaka's murder to apply for bail. Good morning. Gauteng Roads and Transport MEC Kiribone Diale Tlabela has described last night's taxi-related violence at Maponya Mall in Soweto as senseless, unacceptable, and a direct threat to the safety and stability of the public transport system. One person was killed and 2 others injured in an attack on e-hailing vehicles by unknown suspects. Preliminary reports suggest the incident could be linked to tensions between taxi operators and e-hailing drivers. The MEC spokesperson, Lisiba Mpia, says those responsible for the crime must be found and face prosecution.
This is unacceptable behavior that we as South Africans, as a government of South Africa, we can tolerate. And this goes against the backdrop of a uniting and a progressive transport sector. We must coexist. We must have an ecosystem where all the modes are able to participate in the economic spin-off that transport avail to itself. We are calling on the police to get to the bottom of this and arrest the perpetrators and all those that are responsible for this heinous act.
Soweto residents say violence between taxi operators and e-hailing drivers has become unbearable. These residents say they do not feel safe any longer.
Yeah, it's 2 times they happened.
It's for the second time.
Yeah. As last year it happened inside the mall, and this year it's outside the mall. We are not safe in this.
We're not safe here.
We're not safe in this.
We're not safe. Imagine it's happening in front of a mall where we must come and shop. We must get things, product from here. How can we come here and get product while we have been shot at?
The former municipal manager of the Umzimkhulu municipality, accused of the murder of former ANC Youth League Secretary General Sindiso Makaka, is expected to apply for bail. 55-year-old Stanley Skosana was arrested last month in Durban by the political killing stars team. He was previously arrested in 2018 alongside the late Umzimkhulu mayor. Their charges were later provisionally withdrawn. Makaka was wounded when attackers opened fire on his car in July 2017. He died in hospital months later. A hitman, Sibusiso Ngengwa, was sentenced to 25 years imprisonment after pleading guilty. The case of the other 2 accused will resume in October. Police in Mpumalanga have charged a 33-year-old woman accused of killing a partner in Emelo. The woman was taken in for questioning after the dismembered body of a man was found on Monday night. The body had multiple stab wounds. Provincial Police spokesperson Donald Mhluli says the woman has been charged with murder and defeating the ends of justice.
Some of the body parts were bent. I think if we would have observed behind us, it's alleged that it's where it took place. And the woman was here and she was arrested. It's a 33-year-old and the victim is 37 years old. She's facing a charge of murder as well as concealment of death. And also what we can say is that it's so worrying to have such incident which shows moral decay.
The Khoisan leaders of South Africa say Khoi and San communities have been excluded from the upcoming First National Convention meant to kickstart the national dialogue. The convention is set to take place in Pretoria tomorrow and on Saturday. Community leader Stanley Peterson says Khoi and San communities continue to be marginalized by government.
As the national Khoisan leaders of South Africa are very aggrieved what's happening in South Africa today. In CODESA, we were not part of CODESA. Now there's a national dialogue. The Khoi and the San people are also not present. They're not even been mentioned. So how can we talk about a South Africa that is democratic and non-racial if every time we are being deliberately excluded? In the old apartheid years, we were excluded. In the new democratic life, we are also excluded.
And finally, more than 100 aid agencies have accused Israel of continuing to block the humanitarian supplies from Gaza. Oxfam says over $2 million worth of supplies have been rejected. Aid organization CARE says more than $1 million of aid for mothers and babies have been waiting to enter for months. The BBC's Imogen Folks has more.
Many aid agencies say they have not had a single truck of supplies allowed into Gaza since March, when Israel first imposed its blockade. The more recent promise to let supplies in and create humanitarian corridors has not, the aid agencies say, improved things. Israel has introduced a new vetting process which requires aid agencies to provide detailed and often sensitive information about all their staff. Agencies who do not comply are now being turned away.
Recapping the top story, Gauteng Roads and Transport MEC Kiribone Diale Tlhabela has described last night's taxi-related violence at Maponya Mall in Soweto as senseless, unacceptable and a direct threat to the safety and stability of the public transport system. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Visit outsurance.co.za today. You always get something out.
Outsurance is simply the best at ensuring you have a great claims experience. Outsurance has again lowered their number of complaints per 1,000 claims referred to the Ombudsman, and on top of it scored 9.99 on the Hello Peter Trust Index, plus a near 5-star rating on Google Reviews. Isn't it time you switch to the insurer where you always get something out? Visit outsurance.co.za today. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
It's a very good morning to you in your SFM Sports Headlines. Soccer action with Kaizer Chiefs finally breaking their hoodoo. That's at the F&B Stadium. They had a 79th minute strike. And we also bring you the Springboks. They are bracing themselves for an aerial battle as well as a ruthless Wallaby side. All the details just before 7:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Very good morning. Our top traffic stories. The N1 coming out of Soweto on your way to Randburg. Really heavy this morning. 2 crash scenes. One just after one just after 14th Avenue, and then another just before Bayers Nordia. Put all that together, and you've got a really heavy backlog extending right through to Maresburg. So if you're out of Soweto, make sure you've got plenty of time, or you're looking at some alternative routes. Joburg's Crowd Interchange all snarled up. The Mike 1 this morning, extending a delay from Boyson's right through to about Oxford Road in the Parktown area, and the N3 under queuing pressure northbound up towards Van Buren Road. Coming through Pretoria, still a lot of pressure at Dustport Tunnel on the southbound side. Mopani Highway queues today from Theo Martins all the way down to Eskiel Pathlali Drive. Durban's N2 under pressure up to Westwood Mall. The backlog of that queue this morning already back at the M7. Crash on the side of the N2 coming north up to Munsum Toti. Bit of onlooking causing delays there. And Cape Town, no traffic lights on 35th Avenue at Francie Fun Sale. That's a really big junction. If you're coming up from the airport, there's a mighty big backlog on 35th this morning, heading from the airport through Elsie's towards the Paro area. And a crash on Nelson Mandela Boulevard after Hospital Bend. That's pushing a queue on the N2 right back as far as the airport. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
10 minutes after 7 on this Thursday. It's great to be in your company. We'll get straight into it because we want to cover as much ground as possible over this half hour. So let's start now. We're focusing a bit on the eviction that happened in Ekurhuleni a few days ago, as well as the theme around lawlessness and the degree to which some of the events we are seeing represent lawlessness. You will know, for example, that during that eviction and the resistance thereto, the Department of Home Affairs building in Germiston was torched. But despite the unrest and backlash, the mayor of Ekurhuleni, Nkosindiphile Xhakaza, has taken a firm stance, vowing that the city will not back down from reclaiming illegally occupied properties. Let's speak now to Khopelo Hollo, who is the MMC, Member of Mayoral Committee for Human Settlements in Ekurhuleni. Good morning to you and thank you for your time. Give us the background and context as briefly as you can to these evictions. My understanding is that you are arguing that the evictions were the last resort for you.
Good morning to us and the listeners. Well, this was not the easy decision to arrive on, to us. As you may have read the reports, we are saying this was our last resort because we've been engaging with the occupants at the complexes, trying to reach an agreement and also regularizing those who have not signed this agreement. However, the resistance and also the community violence, they ensure that we don't have access and we don't reach any agreement with them. We therefore approach court to get the eviction order, which we have executed on Tuesday.
And the type of accommodation that those apartments are is important, isn't it? It's what is called social housing and a stream of revenue for you as a municipality, is it?
Correct, actually.
But have you been collecting that revenue?
We are collecting only about 13% of Faro Park. Overall, we are collecting 25% of all our complexes, which amounts to about 1,500 units. So Krisani is the only complex which is compliant. We collect about 80-90%, which we are happy with. But the three of the other complexes, including Faro Park, it's problem. Hence, we have resulted in getting an eviction order to ensure that we get these housing units, which are social housing units, back to normal so that we can generate the revenue out of them.
And the way I understand it, the levels of non-compliance were particularly pronounced at Faro Park. Tell me about the losses as well as the levels of compliance at that particular complex.
The level of compliance is about 54 units, which we have left. They are still enjoying stay with us as we speak. But the rest, look, we have also experiences some difficult challenges whereby when we try to do door-to-door, we can't find the original lessees. We find people who claim that they are renting from those people, and it's alarming. Hence, we have to take this action. You cannot sublet a unit of which a municipality is providing free services in terms of electricity and water, but then you are also subletting it and you don't even pay anything. You don't even pay services. You don't care to pay a rental, but you are collecting from this unit. So there was a lawlessness, in honestly speaking.
Yeah. And will this eviction process then be carried through to other areas that don't necessarily form part of your social housing, but also other hijacked buildings, including buildings within the Germiston CBD?
Indeed, we've got hijacked buildings around the city, which we have been engaging with the provincial government as well. There was a court ruling that municipality should avail some funds to buy out those properties. However, we have contested that decision that these are private property buildings which owes millions of rents to the city services. So it will be unfair if City now has to pop another money to buy them out. So the decision, I'm sure, is still with court. We have to check with legal department how far is it. But the best way is to evict and convert these properties into a modern social housing.
All right. All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time. That's Khopelo Hollo, who is the MMC for Human Settlements in the city of Ekurhuleni. Listening to that is Edward Mulupi, who is Senior Communications and Advocacy Officer at the Socio-Economics Rights Institute at that city. Good morning to you, Edward, and thank you for your time. Just looking at what transpired in Germiston, how does it sit with your typical eviction situation that you at Siri deal with from time to time? This is eviction from social housing under the justification that says the people who were now occupying were not paying rental, and some of them did not even qualify, leaving out people who were actually qualified to be occupants of that housing.
Yeah, good morning to Thulasizwe and good morning to the listeners. Thank you for having us. I think maybe if you consider where the evictions have now, where we are with them and what we are seeing, I think maybe the main concerning thing is that there are a lot of people who have been rendered homeless as a result of the evictions, meaning that they have nowhere else to go, and they are sleeping out on the streets. So that's the most concerning thing, because then that goes against the constitutional values that we have, and also the legislation that guides how evictions are to take place. But I think maybe the question that you're also asking is one of a broader housing crisis that we are facing as a country, and no doubt also even in the city of Ekurhuleni, which really speaks to the shortage of housing supply, particularly for low-income households. I think if you're speaking about from the reports that we are hearing, those who have mostly been affected have been ones who have been paying low rentals, and it's the subletting that the MMC spoke to.
Yeah, that becomes a problem.
Yeah, so the challenge there is that, of course, that there is a market that's not catered for in terms of the formal housing provisions. And so then they find some alternative forms of housing, which often are very informal, and also even in this case do not offer protections for those who most need it. And so now we are seeing that, unfortunately, the ones who then suffer the most are the people who need housing the most, and the ones who are subletting are not the ones who are being evicted.
Has our law and practice around evictions become so convoluted, so tied up in technicalities, such that it now, in a way, I don't know, Edward, stymies, owners of properties and their ability to enforce their rights, and also cities and municipalities being able to deal with situations of lawlessness. For example, talking about hijacked buildings, but also in social housing, like those units out in Ekurhuleni, where it is said that there were people, one, who did not qualify, but somehow ended up getting into that social housing in a way, then locking out those who actually qualify. And secondly, people who are subletting and collecting rental on property. So I'm asking, just as an overall, from your experience, have we made the rules and practice around evictions so convoluted and tied up in technicalities that it sort of stymies the other elements that are important?
No, I mean, I think the processes and the rules are quite clear. That one, there needs to be a process that's followed, and that process is quite clear in law what needs to happen. And two, I mean, I think maybe what we also need to consider is that the laws against evictions, they don't actually stop evictions from happening. They just mandate how the evictions are to take place, and most importantly, that people are not rendered homeless as a result of the eviction. And if that's going to be the case, then there is a process to bring in the local municipality to ensure that people have an alternative to go to on a temporary basis, at least. So that's not complicated in any way. Of course, it's maybe complicated to lay people, but if you are able to engage the people who are legally trained, they'll be able to assist in the process.
All right, I've got to leave it there. Thank you for your time this morning. That's Edward Molopi, who is Senior Communications and Advocacy Officer at the Socio-Economics Rights Institute. That's SIRI.
I work at Optima College. We offer distance learning solutions.
How is it that OUTsurance provided the solution for you?
918 Rand is what I'm saving.
Incredible.
Yeah.
You're helping people to do better, and OUTsurance is doing better for you.
Definitely. If OUTsurance will not be able to beat your current premiums, remember there's that 500 Rand that you could get.
Go to outsurance.co.za now for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands.
Tell me, what brings you and OUTsurance together?
You know, Jacques, I've been battling to get a nice car insurance, man. Someone that can give you nice service. Whenever you call them, they're there for you. You know, OUTsurance, I found them. I'm saving a cool $360.
Why put yourself through the pain? Be like Jermaine.
Yes, be like Jermaine and sign up with OUTsurance.
Get the real deal with the real savings.
Yes, there we go. I made the right move.
Go to outsurance.co.za now for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
West Africans in Niger are hunting for nothing but 3 points, while Bafana Bafana are pumped to achieve a win. This is the Total Energies African Nations Championship 2024. Niger confronts South Africa on Friday, 15 August at 7 p.m. Live at your fingertips on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Thulasizwe Simelane is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio.
22 minutes after 7. I was making the point earlier on when I introduced the show that flames of discontent seem to be raging all around us. A few examples. We wake up this morning, as I was saying, to the aftermath of what was truly a violent scene outside Soweto's Maponya Mall, where what's believed to have been clashes between minibus taxi operators and e-hailing drivers has left one person dead and at least 2 vehicles torched. Just a few days ago, a Home Affairs building in the Germiston CBD burnt to ashes, allegedly by some residents of a block of municipal apartments who were resisting being evicted from there. Not to mention the sense that the actions of groupings like Operation Dudu and the state's response thereto or lack thereof are forcing a reckoning with our sense of fidelity and commitment to the rule of law. Let's speak to Professor Situlego Matebesi, who is an associate professor and academic head of the Department of Sociology at the University of the Free State. Good morning to you, Prof, and thank you for your time. We framed this conversation, and I suppose the central question that arises from all these incidents that we've been seeing and the concerns in particular around the operations like Operation Dudu and the state's response thereto. Can it be said that we have a crisis of lawlessness? And if so, what are its underpinnings?
Hi, good morning to Thulasizwe and your wonderful listeners. I think just to respond to your question in short, I think even the way it is phrased, it is an understatement. We are living in a more than a lawless society. It's the rate at which people are being murdered, property are being destroyed in this country. And I say it with the utmost respect to our leaders, but I can't navigate my way around this issue by not stating that it's actually a miracle to wake up in South Africa every morning and go to work or do what you're supposed to do. If you look at the level of crime in this country, we are facing a huge crisis, and if we don't intervene, soon we will sit with a country that is not capable to even control its own citizens.
What are the underpinnings? Is it an impotent state that is not able to assert its authority, or is it the state of the society that can't wait anymore for some of the grievances to be addressed? For instance, the argument from organizations like Dudu is that the state is not enforcing the laws and therefore we have to enforce them ourselves, even if it means that in the process we are accused of being vigilante in our approach.
It's actually a combination of both. I mean, the euphoria that started in the early 1990s, participatory governance, we had community police forums, there was a robust engagement with communities, and that over the years seems to have diluted, and our priorities are somewhere else now. We've got skewed priorities, and our priorities these days is to a certain extent on governance, but also how can I line up my pocket? And that in itself, if you've got a situation like this, you're now speaking to me, Matebesi, head of a department, and if I now hire my wife, my sister, a brother, that I know will not be able to stand in front of a clerk and just to say a few sentences. And this is what is happening in some state institutions. And how do they get away with that? It has to do with the lack of consequent management. And it's a vicious cycle. And at the end of the day, we're sitting with this situation. But remember also, in the absence of the rule of law, when it is not about, then you will get situations where civil society organizations, formations such as Operation Dudu will say, we cannot allow, not in our name, that this situation should prevail, where our brothers and sisters are being murdered on a daily basis. But that in itself creates another level of problems when it comes to human rights and many other implications for the image of the country.
Is the sense of a crisis of lawlessness being appreciated by those who have the wherewithal to do something about it?
It's difficult to respond to that, but one just have to look at how this situation it's escalating. It's actually scary. I mean, you've got 12-year-old boys that are getting abducted. And I mean, with this illegal mining, we showed the other day that you can actually get an illegal immigrant coming into South Africa, going underground for 3 months, come out, commit a horrendous crime. So we can't account for what is happening. And we just ask with if you look at the structure of our state security cluster, clearly we can, to a certain extent, deal with that. So, yes, to a certain extent, I think we failed to deal with the issue of crime, and it's getting worse and worse by the day.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning on that sobering note. That's Professor Thulasizwe Simelane, who is an associate professor and academic head of the Department of Sociology at the University of the Free State.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Back in the days, Zai, they used to say, Amakhosa Jabulile.
Yes.
Years ago, it would seem Amakhosa Jabulile once again.
Yes.
I almost said the happy people. The happy people are not happy, but Amakhosi are happy.
Oh, yeah. And you can see they've got the teamwork, making the dream work, and the dream wore gold and black. Yes, all smiles for Amakhosi supporters. They had a win, 1-0 at FNB Stadium last night, courtesy of Sipasisle Ndlovu's goal. Chiefs have now won their first 2 matches of the season in the Betway Premiership. And their assistant coach, Cedric Kaze, had this to say.
In the second half, we had more control of the game, more tempo, and as well as we said even last game, we are happy that our players are coming from the bench. They make an impact. Yeah, even today they made an impact, and as well that we can't forget that this is a game. This is the second game in 3 days. physically was very, very tough for everyone.
Meantime, Durban City, they also struck a late winner, defeating Chippa United 1-0 at the Chatsworth Stadium. We also had Magesi. They came from behind to draw 1-1 against Stellenbosch. Golden Arrows edging Richards Bay 1-0. And Sekhukhune United downing TS Galaxy also by the same scoreline. African Nations Championship, Mauritania shocking Burkina Faso 1-0. Madagascar cruising to a 2-0 win over the Central African Republic. All eyes now turn to Rabat, where Morocco will meet Zambia at 4 p.m. today. You can catch it live on SABC Sport. In the meantime, European champions Paris Saint-Germain began the new season lifting more silverware. They beat Tottenham Hotspur 4-3 on penalties. That was in the UEFA Super Cup after producing a late comeback to draw the match 2-2. New Tottenham Hotspur midfielder João Palhinha thinks the defeat will serve as a big lesson.
We played against a top opponent. Was a top game. But in Premier League you have also every single week top games. I think we cannot relax, and the good thing now it's we have another game on Saturday to change the things and start with the right foot on the Premier League, and that's our main goal today. As I said, try to forget a bit what happened today.
On to rugby, and the Springbok coach Rassie Erasmus is expecting a fierce aerial battle when South Africa hosts Australia in their Rugby Championship opener at Ellis Park on Saturday.
If you go through, Tupou and Valentini and Skelton and those three loose forwards, they're pretty impressive. They scrummed really well in the second half against the Lions as well. But I think there will be an aerial battle. It's easy at altitude. The ball flies a mile, so distance kicking will be a thing. But then also they've got great guys in the air. So Lee, the young boy Jorgensen. How do you say his name? The other winger is a really fiery winger as well. He's really competitive. The inside centre is really competitive. So yeah, I think it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be a kicking competition, but I think the aerial battle will be a vital one.
All right, we'll scrum down with more sport for you at the top of the hour. For the Morning Brief, I'm Zai Khan.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, a 38-year-old man has been shot and killed in Strandfontein on the Cape Flats and another wounded while sitting in a play park. The bail application of Katiso Katie Molefe is expected to resume today at the Alexandra Magistrates Court north of Johannesburg. Molefe, together with 3 others, were arrested last month for the murders of Opa John Sifuka, known as DJ Somebody, and 2 of his bodyguards. And Gauteng Roads and Transport MEC Kiribone Diale Tlhabela has described last night's taxi-related violence at Maponya Mall in Soweto as senseless, unacceptable and a direct threat to the safety and stability of the public transport system. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Stays very heavy out of Soweto this morning on your way through to Randburg. A series of earlier crashes, both of them occurring before you got to the Beyers Nordia Drive exit. The one behind that at 14th Avenue is being cleared, but the second one still on the side of the road at Beyers Nordia. And it's a very heavy backlog all the way down to sort of Main Reef Road Bridge territory. If you're leaving Soweto on your way to Randburg this morning, lots of traffic, very heavy backlogs. You might want to hit some alternative routes or make sure you've got plenty of time to get through. Here's an unusual queue. The Mike 1 running south. Some real pressure from Parktown all the way down into Crown Interchange. There's obviously an issue around the double-decker section this morning. That's very unusual. Normally you get through top speed, no problems going south while everybody jams up going north. But this morning it's not the case from Parktown off-ramp at Houghton Drive for some alternatives out of that one. N3, Elan's up to Modderfontein looking quite heavy as well. And there's a bit of pressure coming south out of Pretoria this morning on the M1 from Montana. Traffic jammed up through to the N4 Emma-Lethletti split. Looks okay between Peterborough and Durban. No major problems this morning. Cliffdale and Key Ridge looking okay. M13 out of Pinetown from St John's Avenue down towards Cowie Hill and the Paradise Valley interchange. That all looks a bit busy. In the N2, fairly heavily backed from the M7 through Westwood Mall. Cape Town today, big pressures on the N2. Driving in from the airport, it's a crash through Hospital Bend on Nelson Mandela Boulevard, just down by Riddleblum, and that's pushing a big backlog of traffic. Behind that, the M5 struggling to get in, so you'll sit hit from sort of Ottery territory. And a collision coming out of Mitchell's Plain now. It wasn't a bad start coming out of Mitchell's Plain, but that's all changed. It's a bus, a Golden Arrow bus involved in the crash at Samora Michelle. Probably take a while to clear up. M7 North, R300, Highlands Drive into that M7 out of Mitchell's Plain, all heavily backed as well. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The business update on SAFM.
Here with the morning's second update is Ndawling Lichela. Ndawling, I see that you want to focus on the finance sector for this update. So let's start then. Tell me about Nedbank acquiring ICOCA, these guys that make these pay points, right? That are used by SMMEs, yeah?
Yes, that's the company. And Nedbank is looking to deepen its exposure to the SME market. And so it's acquiring the fintech group ICOCA. As you mentioned, it provides those card machines, digital payments, and business management tools for small businesses. You'll notice or see their cards at a local spaza shop or even like a market. It processes over 20 billion rands annually in digital payments and disburses over 3 billion rands in working capital to the SME sector. Now, the deal, pending regulatory approvals, is worth 1.65 billion rand and is expected to conclude in the coming months. Once the acquisition is finalized, ICOCA will become a wholly owned subsidiary of Nedbank, but will continue to operate under its own brand and leadership team. The agreement includes a management lock-in to ensure continuity and alignment with long-term growth objectives. Commenting on the move, Nedbank CEO Jason Quinn said that empowering entrepreneurs is essential to building a thriving and inclusive economy, and ICOCA's mission and technology align perfectly with their vision for digital transformation within the SME space.
Yeah, it's impossible to overstate how important that particular aspect is, right? The payments facilitation. The number of times in Ndawling where I've craved a magwinya.
I just wish you could swipe.
Now you just wish, but this guy who's selling a magwinya on the side of the road, I just wish I could just tap a card and move on, because cash has become quite a problem these days. Yeah. In other news, tell me about Capitec. You're saying that they're expecting to deliver double-digit earnings growth.
That's right, Tulas, and it comes as no surprise. Another bumper set of financials expected from Capitec, and this driven by positive contributions from all its businesses. The bank says its profit is expected to increase by as much as 27%. This growth is attributed to increased loan disbursements, a stable credit loss ratio, and growth in the net investment portfolio, which have all contributed to a rise in net interest income. Now, Capitec's transaction income and commission have also seen growth, driven by an increase in active client numbers and transaction volumes. The group added that its simplification of transaction fees and merchant commission structure has made a positive impact on its clients as well. Another set of results will also include a full 6 months of income from its recent acquisition, Everfin Holding Group, compared to only 4 months in the corresponding period last year, which will further contribute to the bank's growth. More details on the group's performance will be released when results are out on the 1st of October.
On the market side, how are we looking at this hour?
Kicking things off in Asia, a 3-day rally came to a halt this morning with major stocks in the red. Traders holding off bets for now, it seems. The Japanese Nikkei taking the hardest hit there, retreating from record highs, losing 1.4%. Stateside, the optimism also seems to be fading, with futures flat despite the upbeat finish overnight. And then coming back home, the JSE closed stronger, with the all-share gaining 1%, boosted by the industrials up 1.8%. Over in the currency market, the rand seems to be losing some steam, trading slightly on the back foot at 17.54 to the greenback this hour. Then in the commodity scene, oil steady just above $65 per barrel. Traders eyeing U.S. rush talks before making bets on crude.
All right, thank you for that, Ndawling. Ndawling will be back just after 8:30 with the last update of the morning, in which update she will give you a sense of the kind of day you can expect in the markets on this Thursday. I'm back with your calls and your WhatsApp voice notes in a moment.
The boardroom heat is on and the pressure is rising. The Insurance Apprentice, hosted by the one and only Babi Moloi, is delivering drama, tough decisions, and big personalities every week. Expect bold moves, emotional twists, and contestants you'll either root for or roast. And yes, you'll be surprised what you learn about insurance along the way. Open up to the Insurance Apprentice, Thursdays at 7 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
Mr. Govender, congrats on the retirement. You just sold your car to We Buy Cars. Tell us about it.
Yes, it just gathered dust in the garage, so I exchanged it for cold hard cash. Now my wife and I can enjoy a stress-free retirement.
Retiring the car as you retire. Nice. So why We Buy Cars?
It was so quick. They came over to our house to do the evaluation, and we sold it the same day. Tops, man.
Okay, so now you got even more time on your hands, eh?
Exactly.
We Buy Cars. Geared for your next chapter. Geared for you.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
All right, the conversations around lawlessness as well as, as manifest by some of what we saw at Maponya Mall, quite resonating with a lot of you this morning, and a number of you as well wanting to reflect on the actions of Operation Dudu as they fit in with that conversation about enforcement of laws versus activism by citizens who insist that the laws must be implemented. So let me play one or two of those voice notes for you now.
Good morning, Thulasizwe Simelane and the listeners. I think the problem in our country is lawlessness. Any law that is written but not being implemented is useless. I think we need Dudulas and most civil society to reclaim this country from unlawfulness. Ke nna Matebane Bushele in Pretoria.
Morning, Tulas. Uvuse Lushabi Tegwin. The answer to your question is very simple. People are putting their faith on Operation Dudu and movements like March and March because the country is on autopilot. We have no leadership, nothing. Your leaders are tone deaf. They're not listening to the people on the ground.
Good morning, Tulas. Just commenting, responding on the committee member that was saying the mall should be closed. No, I don't think that's a good idea. How many people that are working on that mall from their community that they will be losing jobs if they will be closing the mall? I think they must try the other ways. Thank you.
Thank you for those. And I do think that much of what we're talking about, I do expect that it will dominate the national convention going forward tomorrow, starting tomorrow, yeah? Yeah, starting tomorrow. And also the whole national dialogue process. I can't imagine a national dialogue which will happen in all communities across the country where these issues don't come up, right? They come up daily. I know sitting in this chair that they come up daily. The dissatisfaction really with the lawlessness in the country, but also the sense that even those laws that are there are just not being implemented and there's no consequence management. So I do imagine that these will dominate the national dialogue. Crispin in Durban, good morning. You want to talk to me about Operation Dudu?
Good morning, Thulasizwe. And I want to challenge you on something that you said earlier, that this is about people trying to use civil society means to implement the law. This is a complete smokescreen. This is not about implementing the law. This is about imposing your attitudes on the citizens and migrants in the country. So I have witnessed this with March and March. I mean, I have watched as they have turned away people with South African IDs. In other words, people who comply with the law, who are meant to be there, they've been turned away because they are foreign-born. Or a child being turned away because the parent is foreign-born, even though the child is 100% South African. The same as me, by the way. My parents were born overseas. Does that mean I'm not allowed to go into some sort of public facility? So when I've challenged the people there on the law, they had no clue what the law is. They just said, this is Section 17 of the Constitution. Well, read it. It's nothing to do with that. I said, well, so tell me what is Section 27 of the Constitution. The one woman said she was an attorney, but she hadn't studied the Constitution. Like, or Section 19 of the Immigration Act. Nonsense. They haven't read it. They don't know the law. All they're doing is applying their prejudices. Here's a clear example. A group of refugees were coming towards there. Now, these are legally documented refugees who have appointments in the hospital. As they come near, these March and March people start shouting, go away, there's no place for you here. So they've already decided that it's a violation of the law. They are the problem, not the lack of implementation by the police.
So, Crispin, if I can push back just a bit, I think the point I was making is that what's making ground fertile for that kind of activism to take root and find resonance. And I think that's worth having the conversation about what makes ground fertile for people to resonate with some of what is being done by groups like Dudu. What is broken? Because I don't think you can seriously argue against these groupings when they say the laws around immigration are just lax. They're just not being implemented in the country, such that those who need to be holding asylum papers, many of them don't. And those who want to hold asylum papers, the system doesn't allow for them to even access. Those are not being processed fast enough. And you have instances of people who just cross the border irregularly, and there's no follow through on all of those issues.
So I understand. Look, there's a big mess, and I can accept this is a mess. This is a wicked problem. It needs careful solution. It's no different from the other situations you're talking about. If we were to go into the issue of housing and saying everyone who's illegally on a piece of land must get off, and we had vigilantes driving people off land because they're illegally, we would have mayhem in the society. That's my point, that there are wicked problems, there are complex problems. The way to approach it is not to go around claiming that you have the right to enforce the law that you don't even understand.
In alignment, 100%. Thank you for that. That's Crispin out in Durban. Let me go to Bongani in Joburg. Good morning to you, Bongani.
Yeah, good morning, Thulasizwe.
Please go ahead.
Thulasizwe, it's about this Siri guy who was there. You know, from my own perspective, there are also a problem when it comes to the occupation of open spaces and properties. Let me tell you what happened. We are being pushed out of our area in Ellens Park by the squatters that came and squatted next to our houses. When we reported this, on the first day when the squatters came in, we went to report that to the authorities. We reported it to the Metro Police. Metro Police came and tried to evict those people. But Siri people, within an hour, they were there protecting those people that they should not be evicted. Within a day. You see, so they become also a problem because what they do, they plan, they say, if you occupy that land, then the council must have the responsibility to find you an alternative accommodation. Crime has risen up in our area. We can't sleep at night. We patrol the whole night as fathers of the area to protect our children. We've caught one guy as a community stealing from one house, and he told us, we're in the presence of the police, that there is a kingpin who's called Tabo in that area where they stay, where they've invaded land, and that guy is the one who they're selling these things to him. And what I've investigated, personally myself, going there into that squatter camp, maybe 60% of the people that are living there are illegal immigrants from Zimbabwe and Malawi.
Sure. All right, Bongani, thank you for that. Raising issues there about the role of organizations such as Siri in insisting on the procedure, because that's what they insist upon, the procedure for eviction when evictions are being effected. You heard earlier on that the laws that we have, as stringent as they are around protecting the rights of people, they don't stop evictions from taking place, but it's how. It's the how of it, the rules that have been set by our laws, including judgments of the courts, the Constitutional Court, and the likes. So that's where really the tension is. How exactly do you undertake the eviction? Solomon in KZN, good morning.
Good morning, Thulasizwe, and good morning to your listeners. I do think that there is a role that can be played by the national dialogue if South Africans, all of them from various quarters, can pay attention to it, because the current system, I do not know whether by design or by default, can deal with certain issues which are of national importance and interest.
Yeah.
Number one, the economy. Using the current situation of the constitution, it does aspire to transform the economy, but it is not succeeding. And I do not know what is it going to take, because I don't think there is anywhere in the country where there is consistent boycott by capital to invest in the economy. This dichotomy which exists between the operators of the economy and the regulators, being government, is not assisting in any way. And the capital, the domestic capital in cahoots with the global capital, we are now enjoying the 30% tariff. And we need a setting where we are going to discuss and say, what is this, what kind of South Africa that we want? Crime levels, foreign nationals that are in here overstretching the resources which are meant for locals.
So the upshot from what you are saying, Solomon, it sounds to me like you are all in for the national dialogue. Are you?
I am all in, because there is nowhere, no platform where such things can be debated under no pressure. Because in the current terrain, people are outmaneuvering, outpointing, trying to score some political points. We need to sit down and debate.
Sober debate.
Yes, thank you very much.
All right, thank you for that. That's Solomon out in KZN, touching on the national dialogue and just outlining from his perspective why it is much needed at this particular point.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
A couple of really big delays across Joburg highways this morning. The first one is the earlier collisions on the M1 North that happened before Bayers Nordia. Now it's left drive time traffic this morning, backed heavily all the way down to the N17 at Soweto. Major delays if you're on your way up to Randburg. The other issue is a crash on the M1 South at Crown Interchange. That is the reason for the big delay heading south on the Mike 1 from Parktown. That'll be a surprise. Normally get straight through the Crown going south this time of morning while everybody queues northbound. Northbound still queuing as it normally does, but it's that southbound delay. So come off the Mike 1 at Houghton Drive, reroute through the Wilds and Hillbrow, get yourself onto some alternative routes. Also crash on the R59 at Reading Interchange. Really big heavy traffic coming through from Swatcopies Road this morning. N1 out of Pretoria down through Midrand surprisingly looks okay. It's a lot lighter than what you'd normally find this time, certainly this time of morning, and this time especially on a Thursday looks okay. Durban's M7 still jam-packed, N2 I beg your pardon, still jam-packed from the M7 up through the Westwood Mall. There's a bit of pressure around Pinetown, M7 inbound from the N3, M13 outbound to Paradise Valley, both very slow. And Cape Town crash, N2 into town by Rudderblom, that's on Nelson Mandela Boulevard just past Hospital Bend. Basically all lanes are open, but there's still plenty to look at, so coming through from the airport it's heavy. Also a bus crash out of Mitchell's Plain on the M7 at Samora Michelle. M7 is badly backed up. R300 leaving Mitchell's Plain to the M7 is even worse, and there's just a lot of congestion there. Also no traffic lights right in the heart of Elsie's this morning. Jan van Riebeek, Francie Fun Sale, 35th Avenue, that big junction without traffic lights, delays all approaches. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Spar brings you super savings. Get 2 litre Spar Extra Shelf Life Milk, full cream or low fat for $31.99, plus 100 megs free data on Spar Mobile, or 200 gram Jacob's Cronin coffee jar, or 230 gram refill for $144.99, plus 300 megs free data on Spar Mobile. Plus, you could win your share of 6 million rand in instant cash. Prices valid until 24 August 2025, while stocks last. T's and C's apply.
Channel your inner warrior woman this August on Expresso as we celebrate and empower women across South Africa. From trailblazing heroines to inspiring entrepreneurs, we spotlight stories of strength, resilience, and change. Join us for powerful panel chats, wisdom, wellness, and bold conversations on equality, GBV, and women's rights. This Women's Month, rise with the women leading our nation forward. Weekdays 6 to 9 a.m. only on S3.
Stay on top of all meaningful, top trending stories right here on SAFM. Leading the conversation.
6 minutes to 8 on this Thursday. Let me bring you the story we wanted to bring you yesterday. It's not capital flight by any stretch of the imagination, far from it, but the country has seen quite a few international companies announcing they are already in progress or imminent exit. Count among these the likes of Bain & Company, whose reasons for exit have more to do with the consequences of their own misdeeds in the country. Shell's downstream investments such as service stations, HSBC, Tupperware and others. The example of Anglo-American also comes to the fore, who recently offloaded its platinum interests but remains the majority shareholder in the country's minor Kumba iron ore. So what's going on? We're told that a perfect storm of difficult international markets and the volatile global macro environment combined with a weak local economy that's been hovering around 1% growth and less for several years now, all of that comes into play. I do need to give credit to the initial reporting of Business Tech on that story, as I welcome Professor Adrian Saville, who is a professor of economics, finance and strategy at the Gordon Institute of Business Science at Gibbs. Good morning to you, Prof, and thank you for your time. Just for perspective, let me rewind it back to where I started my introduction. Just for perspective and proper framing, it can't be said that we are facing capital flight as we know it based on these examples cited, can it?
Good morning. I think that's exactly the circumstance. It's not capital flight, but it is a very unfortunate confluence of events which sees a cocktail of things leaving. And, you know, the names that you've run through, what leaves when those names exit isn't just, you know, in inverted commas, the business. Very often what goes with the business is skills, technology, capabilities, sometimes capital, which doesn't replace it. So it's not just, you know, the exit of a company. It's an exit of a raft of valuable things. And then there's adjacent things. So, for instance, many of the businesses that you have shared in that list are exporters. And so they would be contributors to South Africa's trade account. They, of course, contribute to the fiscus. And so it leaves a gap in tax revenues. So there's a range of reasons to be concerned about it. And in the same breath, there's a range of reasons why these businesses leave. It's not all South African.
Yeah.
You know, I think we need to give attention to that.
Yeah. What's the balance? Because we cite global, factors as well as domestic factors that objectively have to do with our own weaknesses and the weaknesses in our economy.
You know, if I go through the headlines of the big businesses that have left in the last couple of years, you've mentioned a few, Bain & Co. Tupperware is probably a household example. Anglo-American's restructuring, Shell, Hensoldt, and others. I would basket them into three categories. The one is they've left because of South Africa. The anemic economic growth, the lack of opportunity, the absence of new markets. That's all about us. That's a South African issue. The second is a global issue. They've left because of international circumstances. Tupperware is a very good example of that. That it's because of their Chapter 11 that they entered in September 2024 in the United States. They're leaving because of their global circumstances. And then there's a third bucket that I'd point to, and that's because of specific things that the company has done that has dislocated or misplaced them in South Africa. Bain & Co. is arguably the best example of that. And so, we probably need to categorize them. None of it changes the fact that South Africa desperately needs this foreign capital.
Yeah. So just as a parting shot then, Prof, when you take what we are talking about against the continued commitment of other companies such as your Microsoft and Meta, and I think a few days ago I saw Mahindra announcing a plant out in Durban, the investment drives that are done yearly at our investment summit. What is the net effect of it all? Those that exit and those that are committing to staying. Net, does it cancel each other out, or in which side does it balance?
Yeah, so that's a great question. The net effect remains positive for South Africa. We continue to be a recipient of foreign capital, both foreign portfolio investment and foreign direct investment. And so there is a silver lining to that cloud. That silver lining needs to get much thicker in order for the cloud to lighten. South Africa needs to see a substantially bigger net flow of foreign investment. So, on balance, we could probably end this conversation and say, well, there's some bad news, but it's on balance, it's reasonable. We need to get from on balance reasonable to on balance glowingly positive.
All right. I've got to thank you for your time. That's Professor Adrian Saville, who is a professor of economics, finance and strategy at the Gordon Institute of Business Science, GIBS. 8 a.m. Straight to N. Musa, who is on standby with your latest news.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Time to switch and save. Call 08600 60,000 today.
In our top stories, a man shot dead on the Cape Flats and a heavy police presence at Maponya Mall. Good morning. A 38-year-old man has been shot and killed in Strandfontein on the Cape Flats and another wounded while sitting in a play park. Police spokesperson Wesley Twigg says the motive for the attack is unknown. No arrests have been made.
A 38-year-old male was declared deceased on the scene by medical personnel, while a 40-year-old male was taken to a medical facility for medical treatment. According to reports, the victims were sitting in the play park when a grey vehicle stopped and the occupants got out of the vehicle, opened fire on the victims before fleeing the scene. The motive for the attack forms part of the police investigation. Murder and attempted murder cases were registered for investigation.
There's a heavy police presence at Maponya Mall in Soweto, where one person was killed and two others wounded last night. Two e-hailing vehicles were attacked by unknown suspects at the mall. A number of Johannesburg Metro Police vehicles are stationed inside the mall premises, while a group of SAPS members and National Traffic Police members are stationed outside. Preliminary reports suggest the incident is allegedly linked to tensions between taxi operators and e-hailing drivers. The Soweto resident says government should put a stop to the violence.
This is not the first time, Pela.
How long are we going to keep quiet when a situation like this continues? This is not the first time. Last time they attacked the gentleman who had come to pick me up. Why don't they want change? Why are they so stupid? These people are trying to feed their families just like them.
The bail application of Katiso Katie Molefe is expected to resume today at the Alexandra Magistrates Court north of Johannesburg. Molefe, together with three others, were arrested last month for the murders of Opa John Sifuka, popularly known as DJ Somebody, and two of his bodyguards. Molefe's three co-accused, who are understood to be hitmen for hire, have all abandoned their bail applications. Sasha Naidu reports.
After spending more than 2 weeks behind bars, Molefe will appear in the dock alone on Thursday for the continuation of his bail application. During his court appearance last week, his lawyer argued for his release on bail, insisting that he is not a flight risk and will not interfere with state witnesses nor any evidence that may be presented during the trial. However, the state is opposed to him being granted bail, stating that it has proof that Molefe had direct connections with some of his co-accused who are believed to be hitmen for hire.
The Durban High Court is today expected to hear the case of MK Party Member of Parliament, Dudu Zuma Sambudla. The state argues the daughter of former President Jacob Zuma incited violence through a tweet triggering deadly riots in July 2021, following her father's arrest for defying a constitutional court order to appear before the State Capture Commission of Inquiry. The riots affected KwaZulu-Natal and parts of Gauteng and claimed the lives of 354 people. Damage to businesses and critical infrastructure resulted in the loss of over 50 billion rand to the country's economy. She faces charges including 1 count of incitement to commit terrorism and 2 counts of incitement to commit public violence. Crime-fighting structures in Inanda, north of Durban, say the upcoming national dialogue presents a unique opportunity for the government to listen and truly understand the plight of ordinary citizens. The crime-ravaged township has been struggling to tackle this challenge for years. Community structures say a strong partnership between residents and police is slowly starting to have an impact. Here are the views of some locals.
We have a lot of safety structures here in Inanda, so working together has really helped us because we do really see the little changes. But for me, I would say that we would like the government to really intervene because a lot of people just know what they see on the news, that Inanda is a very problematic area, if I could put it like that. But they are not really zooming in and understanding what Inanda or experiences on a daily basis.
When we speak about poverty, we understand it's the high rates of unemployment. You can cater, you can organize an event in Inanda, and you'll find a very high attendance of young people, of which that is a very, very, very problem, of which we are looking forward to having opportunities being deployed to Inanda to assist us actually to tackle this matter of crime.
Recapping the top story, a 38-year-old man has been shot and killed in Strandfontein on the Cape Flats and another wounded while sitting in a play park. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Visit outsurance.co.za today. You always get something out.
If you want to save on your car insurance premium, you call Outsurance, right? But what if you don't save? Well, they'll give you cash just for trying. You heard right. Just ask for 500 Rand cash. But wait, there's more. If you don't save and have been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years, you can ask them for 1,500 Rand cash. Savings or cash, you always get something out.
Go to outsurance.co.za now for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands. Licensed insurer and FSP, T's, C's and information online.
It's a very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, it's rugby. The Springboks making key changes ahead of Saturday's Rugby Championship opener against Australia at Ellis Park. And then we head to Cincinnati for the tennis action with all the big names, Carlos Alcaraz and Arina Sabalenka, all going through. Details just before 8:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Very good morning. Well, the N1 out of Soweto to Randburg not catching a win this morning. 2 earlier crashes between 14th Avenue and Beyers Nordia. Now a breakdown in amongst the traffic going north into 14th Avenue. It's a big queue from the N17 highway at Soweto all the way through. You've got to get to Beyers Nordia to get out of that. The Mike 1 South going slowly down to Crown. That's a result of an earlier crash. And the R59 North collision at Reading Interchange. Big queues from Swartkoppes Road if you're on that run up through from the Vaal area. Doesn't look too bad on the N1 today. Southbound coming out of Pretoria, busy because it's rush hour, but volumes noticeably a bit lighter. Durban, M13, coming from Pinetown down towards the N3 Paradise Valley, that's quite slow. The N2 North still jam-packed as you route up from the M7 through to Westwood Mall. And Cape Town, the earlier crash on the N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard. Basically, all lanes are open at that scene just through Hospital Bend, but it's causing a big backlog on the N2 inbound from Langa all the way through towards Hospital Bend. Also coming out of Mitchell's Plain is heavy this morning. A crash on the M7 at the R300. Both the M7 and the R300 routes heavily backed up out of that Mitchell's Plain area. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
9 minutes after 8 on this Thursday. Good morning and welcome to it, the third hour of the Morning Brief here on SAFM 104 to 107. I will get to reading some of your messages that you've been sending through in the conversations we've been having around lawlessness, the national dialogue, responsiveness really to community concerns and the likes in a moment. But also I will be taking some of your voice notes and your calls. But I do need to flag that in the next few minutes, so I'll spend less time doing that because I want to get to this story that we've been trying to bring you. The story around the Government Pensions Administration Agency. It's of such critical importance, that story, and in a way emblematic of some of the issues that we've been dealing with in the last few weeks, last few months around prudence as far as public finances are concerned. So I do want to get to that as soon as possible. So having said that, then let me read one or two of your messages. Let me start with this one. It says the mall shouldn't be closed. That's Maponya Mall. Police must do their job. If people feared police, there would be less rate of crime in South Africa. That comes from someone who didn't sign off there, but it really talks to and captures what we've been talking about. The suggestion earlier on, the community saying that they were going to shut down the Maponya Mall because of the concerns they have around how it's managed and how that features in the conversation about what happened last night. Tumahule in Paris says, we've been called to help curb criminality, but when people try and do exactly that, like Dudula is doing, people are being arrested and called all sorts of names. That's Zephania Malebo from Tumahule in Paris. So Tumahule is the area in Paris, but the person who sent that is Zephania Malebo, who is weighing in on that. So do keep it going. Let's keep the conversation flowing. The number to dial 086 000 2032. Say it a bit slower, Thulasizwe. 086 000 2032. Your WhatsApp voice notes to 0614 104 107. The third hour of the Thursday edition of the Morning Brief is underway.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
The Angolans and the Congolese have a glittering 90 minutes to demonstrate who will dominate the Central African Derby. This is the Total Energies African Nations Championship 2024. Catch the thrilling clash between Angola and Democratic Republic of Congo this Thursday, 14 August at 7 p.m. Live everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
SAFM. Prime time all day long.
Yeah, so remember, if you were listening yesterday, we were meant to speak to the chief executive of the Government Pension Administration Agency, Kidibone Madiehe, and we were meant to talk to her until she got cold feet, and literally just moments before we went on air, she bailed on us. And then what followed were a number of messages explaining how, the interview can't happen, etc. And that's because of the story that has been reported by News 24 that is actually reporting about the Government Pensions Administration Agency signing up to pay close to R1 billion to a little-known entity known as Shula Developers for the provision of new office space for the pension administrator. The only problem being that Shula does not seem to own the space that it has offered up to the GPAA, but somehow it managed to win the tender against bidders who actually own the spaces that they were offering and could prove that ownership. The journalist behind all of that work is senior investigative journalist at News 24, Sikonati Manjanja. Good morning to you, Sikonati, and thank you for your time. Given the context I just gave now, are you surprised that the chief executive bailed out on us at the very last minute when she was meant to speak to us about this issue yesterday?
Thulasizwe, it is safe for me to not comment on why or how the chief executive bailed out on your interview. I have had my own problems with your producers delaying and forgetting about their own appointments. So I'm not qualified to answer what went on there.
Yeah, apologies about that, what happened this morning. But I guess the point of the question is, given what you've uncovered, are you surprised that this is not a story that the GPAA would be keen to even address even more? Tell us about what you've uncovered about this particular building.
Not at all. I'm not surprised they are not keen to discuss the story. They are actually picking journalists to whom they can give a response. Journalists who absolutely know nothing about the story, are not interested, and have no knowledge of it. This is what I have. In fact, let me start right at the beginning. I myself gave the Government Pensions Administration Agency a week to respond to a list of questions that included: on what basis did you choose the company that does not own and did not own the building? On what date did you inspect that particular building to ensure that it is suitable for the purposes for which you wish to lease it? Please give me the attendance register of that particular day where your own employees went to inspect the building. And can you give me the sale agreement that you may have based it on? And really, why was this company better than the others, the three others that were offering their own space for lease? After a week of waiting, I proceeded with writing the story because the GPAA said to me, we are going through an audit process, and we are unable to answer these questions as they may be part of the audit. Now, anyone who knows anything about financial management knows that the audit is about the finances. I am asking particular questions about one particular contract, R1 billion, 1.2 billion rand worth
process.
of yes. It's got absolutely nothing to do with the audit. So GPAA decided to not answer my questions and therefore forgo the opportunity to put their matters on the record.
But at the heart of your story, Sikonati, it's just this extraordinary situation. And I suppose maybe an example would serve here to say, I lease out the SABC TV Center building when I actually objectively do not own the TV Center building of the SABC. Is that in essence what we're dealing with?
Not only does Shula not own the building that they are leasing to the Government Pension Administration Agency, they have absolutely no access to it. They have nothing to do with it whatsoever. So it's a fraudulent transaction. It's totally fictitious, the lease that the Government Pensions Administration Agency has agreed to pay 1.2 billion rand over the next 10 years. That's 9 years and 11 months. That's the validity of the contract. Let's repeat again. Shula Developers does not own the building, has no access to the building, has not been authorized to enter into any transaction regarding that building. That is because the owner of the building, Attack Limited, a company listed on the JSE, confirmed to me in writing that it has never had any dealings with them. It is not handing the building to anyone, including Shula and the Government Pensions Administration Agency. Now the question is, how did the Government Pensions Administration Agency sign a lease committing 1.2 billion rand and paying 62 million rand of that upfront to companies that have absolutely nothing to do with the property.
As if it can get any worse, it actually does, Sikonati. There's an aspect in your story that talks to even before they've moved in and have seen the inside of the building. They are, quote unquote, in a way, measuring the drapes, is the Government Pensions Administration Agency, and spending money on that aspect as well, redesign.
Thulasizwe, they not only listed the building, as we have said, you are pointing out correctly, they employed a company called Diagamo Architects to redesign the interior of the building, to provide architectural work and all the divide the office space and stuff like that, to ensure the building is ready for occupation when they do. And for that, they paid Diagamo Architects 26 million rands. They then went back to Schuler Developers and entered into another contract of 239 million rands on top of that 1 billion rand, to say, please implement the architectural designs that you have just received from Diagamo, and for this we will pay you 35.9 million rands upfront to ready the building so that we can actually start occupying it. Yeah. The period would be 18 months from the date of the lease agreement signature, and that period would start in March 2026. Now, both Diagamo, which designed the office plan interior of the building, and Schuler Developers, which had to implement the partitions inside the building, did all of this without any access to the building. They received the money and drew up plans, and what is now required is for Schuler Developers to actually partition a building that it cannot access, it cannot gain access to. Let's repeat again, it totally smacks of fraud, all of it, and the government pensions beneficiaries, that is civil servants, people who work for government agencies and for the government itself, they have already paid 62 million rands upfront for absolutely no work done, contracts that should never have been entered into.
Yeah, what an extraordinary story. Thank you for that work. That's Sikonati Manjanja, Senior Investigative Journalist at News 24. Read it and weep. That is the situation that has been uncovered. And it can be claimed that the Government Pensions Administration Agency wasn't afforded adequate right of reply. I mean, as I was pointing out earlier on, they were meant to be on the show with us yesterday, and they've bailed out completely. So that's the situation. Make of it what you will.
Two-time Chan champs, DRC chases 3 points, while the Atlas Lions only want to settle for a win. This is the Total Energies African Nations Championship 2024. Experience the excitement of African football. Democratic Republic of Congo versus Morocco, this Sunday 17 August at 2 p.m. Live everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
All right, let me take a call from Loyiso Tyabashe. Good morning to Loyiso.
Good morning to listeners and good morning to the listeners.
My apologies for that, Loyiso. I'm a bit frazzled. I'm watching the developments out of Maponya Mall, and that's part of the distraction. The reason why we have you on, Loyiso Tyabashe, is Group Chief Executive Officer of the South African Nuclear Energy Corporation. That is NECSA, and that has to do with the story about NECSA welcoming the confirmation of Danafontein in the Western Cape as the approved site for the country's next nuclear power station. This follows, of course, the decision by the Minister of Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment, Dr. Dion George, to uphold Eskom's environmental authorization initially granted in 2017 to conduct a 4,000 megawatt nuclear facility at that site. Again, my apologies for that bit of confusion, Mr. Loyiso Tyabashe. But just in terms of this approval by the Minister upholding Eskom's environmental authorization, how important is it in terms of ramping up nuclear as part of our energy mix in the country?
Good morning once again to listeners and to the listeners at large. This is a very important decision for the nuclear fraternity as well as for South Africans at large. What we are noting, obviously, with nuclear is that it is a reliable source of energy available 24/7. Quebec has really demonstrated that in many other nuclear plants in the world. And in addition, it helps with reducing the carbon emissions in the atmosphere because there is no carbon released when nuclear plants are run to generate electricity. We, as the Nuclear Energy Corporation in South Africa, NECSA, we really applaud Eskom and congratulate them, and we are very appreciative of this decision taken by the minister because it takes us in the right direction, both in terms of electricity availability and improvement of the socio-economic conditions of our country because of employment that these will offer during construction and operations.
Yeah. So in terms of its location, the Danafontein site is not far from where the current Quebec site is. How important was that in terms of the environmental considerations, the feasibility considerations and the likes? In a way, I suppose, I imagine that it aims to tap into the culture and traditions, the nuclear culture and traditions that have already been established in terms of owning and operating the technology for many decades now.
Yes, there are advantages to this, but also with any advantage or decision, there are always some potential disadvantages. The advantage is that you are quite correct. There is already an ethos and an operating system that is understood with the two units that are already in Quebec and Danafontein. But it does not nullify that there could be another possibility of a plant somewhere else. For example, I know Danafontein and Tastepoint near Jeffreys Bay in the Eastern Cape were the two contending sites. Ultimately, it started off with 5 sites, went on to 3 to 2, and ultimately this one being pronounced. But we really look forward to having more and more of these nuclear sites around the country to ensure that we can deploy this carbon-free, reliable energy.
And in terms of what it's capable of doing, and given that ethos that you were talking about, what about those who harbor some concerns about safety, environmental impact, as well as the extent to which we've adhered to our regulatory standards in getting to this point? What do you say in response to that?
Yes, it is indeed an understandable concern from people who are not deeply involved with the operations of nuclear power. At the outset, let me start by saying South Africa is one of the founding countries of the International Atomic Energy Agency back in the 1950s. This means that at an international level, South Africa is recognized and South Africa has learned from the international community in terms of how to manage nuclear, both for power and non-power applications. We move forward, we establish a nuclear regulator that we have, the National Nuclear Regulator. Very strong regulator, internationally recognized and renowned. And it is very, very important to note that our regulator is seen in high esteem globally. So our operations in Pelindaba for the research reactor and the operations by Eskom at Quebec and maybe for the new nuclear plant will really be under that scrutiny of our nuclear regulator. But also important to state that there is a dual process that is followed for environmental authorizations for nuclear plants. One is by DFFE, and the other one is still by the National Nuclear Regulator through a siting license process. So this is one of the ticks that are needed. It's not the only tick, and the rigor will be applied as we go through the process to address all those concerns.
In fact, say a bit more about the next steps forward, some of the hurdles, the regulatory hurdles that will need to be cleared, and how confident are you that those will be cleared, and with the result that we may soon see, I don't know, if they use graders on the ground and activity starting to occur, the first, building blocks on the ground.
Yeah, the most important thing once an environmental authorization is issued is the environmental management plan, which the utility Eskom will have to develop and promise what they will do on the site and what contingencies when the graders finally move in to the DFFE. But in parallel with that, there also needs to be either a nuclear installation license or a nuclear site installation license by the regulator, wherein almost a similar approach, but they follow different approaches to get to the protection of the environment in terms of both the nuclear regulator and the DFFE processes. So the most important step now, next important step, is that exactly, the nuclear installation site license or nuclear installation license by the nuclear regulator. But also it doesn't take away that there still needs to be a process that will be followed to procure the nuclear power plant, and ESCOM, I understand, will be leading that process. They need to procure the plant and make sure that they take the technical aspects of the plant and match it to the ground that they're going to be putting it in as part of the design process.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time and your insights this morning. That's Loyiso Kyabashe, Group Chief Executive Officer of the South African Nuclear Energy Corporation. That's NEXA.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
A very good morning. Let's start with the Springboks, who've made key changes ahead of Saturday's Rugby Championship opener against Australia at Ellis Park. Winger Edwill van der Merwe steps in for Cheslin Colby, who's been sidelined with a minor knee injury. Now, Bok coach Rassie Erasmus also stuck to his rotation policy with 18 World Cup winners in the 23-man squad. Grant Williams starts at scrum half with Kobus Reinak on the bench, while Faf de Klerk and Jaden Herringse remain in contention. Now, Erasmus says all scrum halves under the box have been operating at a high level.
I think we're really trying to build a culture where it's all three's jersey, and hopefully just in the World Cup quarterfinal, semi-final, final, we'll pick the best 9 in form. And Fafas are not at all out of the picture, and Jaden is not at all out of the picture. We know we normally carry 4 9s, but just for the sake of repetition and getting some one-on-one detail into players, we cut the squad a little bit. When we have meetings, we still got Jaden and Faf virtually on. We still got my pimps virtually on.
Let's go to soccer, your midweek premiership recap. Golden Arrows edging Richards Bay 1-0, while Kaizer Chiefs claimed that narrow 1-0 victory over Polokwane City at FNB Stadium. Magesi and Stellenbosch sharing the spoils in a 1-1 draw. Durban City seeing off Chipper United 1-0, and Sekakuna United down TS Galaxy by the same scoreline. In the meantime, European champions Paris Saint-Germain began the new season, lifting more silverware last night. They beat Tottenham Hotspur 4-3 on penalties in the UEFA Super Cup after producing a late comeback to draw the match 2-2. Tennis action, Iga Swiatek, the third seed, reaching her third consecutive Cincinnati Open quarterfinal with a 6-4, 6-3 win against Sorana Castilla. Arina Sabalenka, the world number 1, advancing to the quarterfinals also at Cincinnati with a 6-1, 7-5 win over Jessica Buzas. In the men's draw, Francis Tiafoe's hard-court campaign hit a setback. He retired from his Cincinnati Open 4th round with the Holger Rune, and that was due to a lower back injury. Tiafoe was trailing 6-4, 3-1 when he was forced to call it quits. And the world number 2, Carlos Alcaraz, knocking out Italian lucky loser Luca Nardi in straight sets, 6-1, 6-4, and Alexander Zverev advancing to the quarterfinals also at the Cincinnati Open after Russian opponent Karen Khachanov retired in the second set with the score at 7-5, 3-love in Zverev's favour. That's your wrap of the Morning Brief Sport. We'll have more around 12:30 with John Henneke. I'm Sai Khan.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, a 38-year-old man has been shot and killed in Strandfontein on the Cape Flats and another wounded while sitting in a play park. Police say the motive for the attack is unknown. There is a heavy police presence at Maponia Mall in Soweto, where one person was killed and 2 others wounded last night. 2 e-hailing vehicles were attacked by unknown suspects at the mall. And the Eastern Cape Health Department has confirmed that 128 learners affected by the suspected food poisoning incident in Thulasizwe Agricultural School in Matata have received treatment and have been discharged. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
It's a pretty low volume day today, which is interesting. Normally a Thursday you see peak traffic, but it is a different pattern. If you're coming out of Pretoria down through Midrand, you'll certainly notice a little bit of a backlog into New Road, but nowhere near the volumes you might be expecting. The N3 is under pressure from Alex moving down through Edenvale. That's a crash at Linksfield Road, which is causing that backlog, and a collision on the R24 coming on to the N12. So if you're arriving into Galulis from the airport, from the Edenvale exit, that gets heavy. The N1 dramas around 14th Avenue to Bayers Nordia have been cleared. There is a bit of a bottleneck just coming out of Soweto towards Gordon Road, but an improving situation rather than one's getting worse. And the Mike 1 stays heavy today from Boyson's up through towards Empire Road. Durban, a breakdown on the N2 northbound side of the road, but it's in the roadworks between Komashu and Gateway, so there is a queue to work through on that section. And Cape Town, the N2 inbound's been heavy all morning, largely due to the crash through Hospital Bend down on Nelson Mandela by Rudeblum. It's all lanes open, but plenty to look at still on the side of the road. So coming in from the airport, it will surprise you just how heavy that is. Behind it, the M5 backs up from Kenilworth up through Rondebosch to get into the N2. And a collision. Mitchell's Plain has been busy this morning. A new crash now on the R300 leaving Mitchell's Plain towards the M7. Study to queue traffic on that run through. And a collision on the N1 inbound before Sable Road. Just sluggish coming through from Monte Vista and Paro area. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
Good morning to you once again in Dowling. Tell me about business confidence in July. It's ticking up slightly, is it? All right, we'll get to Dowling in a moment. That's one of the stories that Dowling is covering. Dowling, tell me about business confidence ticking up in July.
Morning, Thulas. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Please go ahead. Business confidence improved in July,
yes.
Yeah? Mm-hmm.
That's right. It seems like the private sector is more positive about SA. That's as business confidence edged higher last month. According to the Saki Business Morale Index, confidence increased to 116.7 points from 113.2 in June. And zooming in on the factors that fueled confidence, this of course includes rising new vehicle sales, increased manufacturing output, firming global prices for precious metals like gold and platinum, and low inflation. But some underlying pressures were evident, such as weaker import volumes, a decline in overseas tourist arrivals, and a drop in real value of building plans passed. Now, Saki, in the meantime, has cautioned that the outlook still faces uncertainty due to escalating trade tensions between SA and the US, with that 30% tariff in place. The chamber has emphasized the need for urgent progress in revisiting trade agreements to mitigate potential risks.
And tell me about retail sales. That's not going as well as the business confidence, is it?
Yes.
The growth is slowing, at least for the month of June, yeah?
That's right. Sales are losing some momentum. In June, purchases were flat on a month-on-month basis. On an annual basis, though, they increased by 1.6%. Gains in key sectors like textiles and clothing and hardware contributed positively to the print. While growth slowed, economists are still upbeat, saying the sector will continue to make a positive contribution to GDP. In a Business Day article, Stanlib chief economist Kevin Lings noted that the improvement in retail sales combined with growth in manufacturing and mining will likely support the GDP performance for Q2 and potentially lead to a modest upward revision to the 2025 GDP growth expectation. Economists also remain positive about households' spending power, saying that lower inflation and recent rate reductions continue to boost local consumers' purchasing power.
Lastly, Dowling, what kind of a day can we expect in the markets today?
So local markets are in for a mixed day of trade, just following what's been happening with international peers this morning. In terms of company news, there's results out from Standard Bank and an update from DRD Gold. So traders will be digesting that. And then looking at currencies, the rand retreating this morning, it's at 17.54 to the greenback, while the local unit is on the back foot. Some strength coming through from the commodities scene, with the oil price up 0.43% this hour at $65.10 per barrel. Meanwhile, in the US, futures slightly in the red, and this despite a positive finish overnight. We are seeing some profit taking at play today, and this also playing out in Asia, with stocks on track to end the day mostly in the red.
I can tell that you are a woman on the move, Ndauling. You've got
You've
got places to be, you've got people to see, and business deals to seal.
I'm trying to bring you the best business news, Tulaz.
I can see, and I appreciate it. Thank you for that. That's Ndauling Lechela, who's kept you updated on all things business, economics, and the markets throughout the course of the show today.
Central African Republic have a secret plan to shock the hosts. However, Taifa Stars want to continue with their winning rhythm. This is the Total Energies African Nations Championship 2024. Experience spectacular action of African football. Central African Republic versus Tanzania. The Saturday 16 August at 7 p.m. Live everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The reigning champs, Amapagania, want to demonstrate that they have a consistent winning formula. But 2024 semi-finalists, Asandawana, say this time around they will advance to the final. This is the MTN 8 First Leg semi-final. Wafa wafa! Catch Orlando Pirates versus Mamelodi Sundowns on Saturday, 16 August at 2 p.m. live on SABC 1 and SABC Plus. Also available on SABC radio stations at 3 p.m. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The SABC is pleased to announce the launch of the new self-registration platform. Vendors wishing to do business with the SABC can self-register on our internally developed platform. Vendors are able to access this platform on our website, that is sabc.co.za/SABC under e-tenders, or self-register at etender.sabc.co.za. E-tender spelled with the letter E at the start there. And follow the prompts there. Visit SABC social media pages for more details.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
21 minutes to 9. The Department of Home Affairs is entering a new era of digital public service delivery. Minister of Home Affairs Dr. Leon Schreiber announcing a landmark partnership with Capitec Bank and First National Bank as the first institutions to join the department's new digital partnership model, enabling the rollout of smart IDs and passport services to hundreds more bank branches across the country, soon directly through banking apps. The Minister, Dr. Leon Schreiber, joins me now to take that conversation forward. Good morning to you, Minister, and thank you for your time. So how different is this offering through the partnership with Capitec and FNB to what has been in existence all along in as far as Home Affairs services within branches are concerned?
Good morning, Thulasizwe. Good to be with you. Let me first just indicate that by now we have Capitec, FNB, Standard Bank, ABSA, as well as Discovery Bank all signed up to this particular initiative. So I think the momentum is really building, and the more of the partners we can get on board, the broader the access that we can enable through this reform. The previous model, the pilot as it was known, has been in existence, I think, since about 2016. And it was really based on a sort of manual process and a very costly duplication for Home Affairs. So essentially, inside a particular bank branch, there would be the duplication of Home Affairs hardware, fingerprint scanners, cameras, as well as Home Affairs officials. And when I came into office 13 months ago, one of the first questions I asked is, why can't we get it beyond 30 branches? Why only limit it to these few locations when it is such a popular service? People's biggest complaint is that there aren't enough booking slots available, and that's because there aren't enough branches available. And the answer to that question is simply resource constraints. We cannot afford to put an official and hardware in every bank branch in South Africa. So we went digital, and it's really linked to our whole focus on digital transformation, so that we're able to build on the integration that already exists between banks and Home Affairs. I think this is an important point to just emphasize. Banks are already plugged into Home Affairs online verification service. So if you open a bank account and you put your fingerprint down on a scanner, for example, it is the Home Affairs database that verifies your identity. So now we're piggybacking on that and introducing the Smart ID service and passport service in hundreds of bank branches, going to roll it out to banking apps, and all of it without human intervention.
So what will customers and people wanting to access Home Affairs services be able to do more efficiently? I hear you talking, for example, about the use of the banking apps as well as rolling this out. I believe the target is 1,000 participating bank branches by 2029. But what will be the net effect? What services will people be able to access more efficiently?
Yes, so that target of 1,000 is set for us by Cabinet in the medium-term development plan, but just by the commitments we already have over the last few days, I think we're likely to actually beat that target by probably 3 years, so we can get there within the next 12 months. And the advantages for people really is transformational. The number of access points that currently exist for you to get a smart ID or a passport is 218 in the form of Home Affairs offices, as well as those 30 manual bank branches. So that takes you to 248. What we're talking about here is a 300 or 400% expansion of access, and especially in rural and underserved communities, you'll often find multiple bank branches, but you won't find a Home Affairs office there. So the traveling times are going to be cut down, the queues are going to be cut down, but also, as I said, because this is fully digitized. In other words, because it's all based on biometric technology. You will walk into the bank branch, there'll be a terminal where you punch in your ID number, and then you look into a camera and you put your fingerprints on a scanner, and that is all confirmed and verified remotely against the Home Affairs population register. And only if your face and your fingerprints match can you then proceed to submit an application for a smart ID or a passport. That's going to rapidly speed up the process. So that's, I think, one of the most pro-inclusion, pro-poor reforms that we've seen in many years, because it's going to bring those services into underserved communities across the country. But really then, on top of that, once we start rolling out into the banking apps, because this is the same technology, it's the same, if you do online banking and you look into the camera on your phone when you open your banking app, that is linked to the Home Affairs system to verify your identity. So again, we're going to use technology to integrate with that. And I think then we open up and really start moving to our vision of Home Affairs at home, where you can apply for your document through the banking app, and you can have the document ultimately delivered to your doorstep, so you don't have to then go and collect it. It is really a revolution in service delivery, all enabled by technology.
A listener wants me to ask you, Minister, who the service providers are for the Department of Home Affairs and what this integration is costing the department. And I suppose linked to that is a question that has been, lingering somewhere in the background. I believe you probably have heard it, questioning why Capitec is part of this process, given links to one of its shareholders who is a known DA donor.
Well, as I mentioned, we have Capitec, FNB, Standard Bank, ABSA, and Discovery so far, with indications that there are more that are joining. So I think it's simply because they are a bank. And we've invited all the banks. On the 30th of April, we wrote to everyone to invite participation in this project. As I said, this is an agreement that has been in place since 2016 with many of these banks, and we're really now using technology to take it to the next level. The best part is it costs nothing because, as I said, the Home Affairs online verification service is already integrated into the financial system. When you open a bank account, you already verify against the Home Affairs database. The critical thing we've done is that we've massively upgraded the reliability of that system. You may recall a few months ago that we announced that we've upgraded the OVS. We found that over 50% of those verification requests failed initially. Years of underinvestment and poor maintenance has caused that system to be on the verge of collapse. We've fixed and upgraded it, and we can now say the error rate is below 1%. We're getting verifications done in less than a second. And critically, we actually also increased the fees that banks and financial institutions have to pay to use that service so that we can maintain it into the future.
By the way, have you settled that disagreement that you had with Time Bank on that aspect?
Well, yes, exactly. They were really the only ones that were a bit concerned about this. But yes, I think there's a broad understanding now, especially because of this reform that we've rolled out, that if we didn't upgrade the OVS, none of this would be possible.
All right.
That really is the foundation of the service expansion that we're doing now.
I do need to rush us along, Minister. There are a couple of things that I want to raise with you. One of them is this extraordinary story reported by Daily Maverick, who are talking about the United States State Department asking our government to fast-track visas for around 30 workers who will be coming from Kenya so that they can come into this country and be based here, I believe, according to that reporting, for about 2 years to facilitate and fast-track the processing of the Afrikaner quote-unquote refugee project that the U.S. is undertaking. Have you heard about this? I know that you don't directly get involved with issuing of visas, but given that bilateral nature of this particular process and disagreement between Pretoria and Washington about whether or not there's a need for Afrikaners to be refugees, what do you make of that?
Yes, so those applications, I believe, have been received, and they will be assessed like all other visa applications in terms of the applicable laws, regulations, and criteria. I think they were applications for volunteer visas, if I have it correct. And I think the normal turnaround time on those are about 8 weeks. So the department will do its job. It will assess those particular applications. And as you quite rightly say, this is really not a political issue. It is a straightforward administrative assessment that needs to be made. And the same criteria that is used for every other kind of application will be applied in this case. And obviously, when there's an outcome, that will be communicated. So that is really where things stand at this point.
But do you find it offensive at all that the U.S. believes so much in this idea of Afrikaners needing to find refuge in the United States that they would ramp up the availability of people to help them to expedite a process that, by all consensus, by the consensus of many, is not even needed?
Yeah, look, I think we all have our own personal views on these kind of issues, but I don't want to preempt anything or cause complications for the department and the process that it is undertaking.
Yeah.
So I would say allow that process to conclude, and I think once there is an outcome, we can obviously engage on those questions, which I think are fair questions.
Yeah.
But I think we must just allow that process to be insulated and conducted properly at this point.
Lastly, Minister, I do need to ask you about just overall immigration policy. I'm pretty much sure you can tell that it's a hot button issue as far as South Africans are concerned, with the result that we are seeing concerns that start out with a grievance that says the immigration laws are not being implemented. Then you have groupings now that are taking it upon themselves to say, if the government won't implement and enforce these rules, we are going to do it ourselves. And when they do that, they find themselves on the receiving end of criticism that says they are resorting to vigilantism and interfering with human rights. Overall, what's your sense of what will it take for us to solve that conundrum of our immigration policies? If we have policies and laws, surely they should be implemented and implemented strictly within the confines of our responsibilities as well at international law, as far as refugee law is concerned, for example.
Well, the answer to that question is deceptively simple, Thulasizwe. It is simply that we need to capacitate the enforcers of those laws. And you will know that one of the biggest things I have been focused on and will remain focused on is properly capacitating the Border Management Authority. That is a good institution that has been created, that has made significant progress, that has developed really forward-looking proposals for using technology to make up for the shortfalls in terms of infrastructure at the border and the border management process more broadly. But it is simply not being funded at an adequate level. And my big frustration is that everyone, literally everyone, agrees that this is an issue that needs to be addressed. But when it comes time to actually mobilizing resources for this particular entity, there just always seems to be a reason why it doesn't happen. And so my plea has been very clear that the BMA must be prioritized in terms of the criminal asset recovery account, where money is taken back by the state that has been stolen, and also in the upcoming budget process, if the spending review can free up some funding, the BMA should really be prioritized as a funding going forward.
But also other weaknesses, Minister, where even the entities that are meant to be fast-tracking the documentation and processing the documentation of foreign nationals such that everyone who is in the country on the basis of some document, even that entire system is dysfunctional, with the result that even those foreign nationals who want to be documented a lot of the times find themselves out in the cold. I mean, Pramoro, one of our listeners, was raising that and saying, why not address even that aspect?
Well, it's really easy to talk about those problems. But the question that needs to be asked is, what is the serious reform and solution that's going to address it? And that is exactly what we are busy working on. The fundamental weakness, the fundamental reason that we have a challenge with documents and fraud in that space is because we are still using manual, paper-based systems where in some cases visas are handwritten documents. So when I talk about the importance of digital transformation, it's not some kind of nice to have or pie in the sky. It is the solution to the immigration problems we face. It is the solution to the lack of access to civics documents. And in September, we'll be rolling out the electronic travel authorization, which completely removes human bias and discretion from the process of obtaining a visa. It is built around machine learning, which can, you have to upload your passport and a selfie so that we can verify your face, we can verify that your document is legitimate. And those are the actual serious reforms that we are busy rolling out really at light speed. But I do think people don't seem to quite understand the scale of the improvement that this is going to bring about over the next few months and years in the integrity of our immigration system. All
right, let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time. That's Dr. Leon Schreiber, the Minister of Home Affairs.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Busy on the eastern side of Joburg. Breakdown on the N3 north at Heldenay. So again, a queue starting to form back towards Cement Factory. Also a breakdown at Linksfield Road. So delays coming through Edenvale. Slow go on your way passing that towards Gilulis. And a crash on the R24 as you merge onto the N12 for a slow trip from Edenvale into Gilulis. Interchange Mike One stays pretty heavily backed from Boyson's moving through towards Empire Road. We mentioned earlier light volumes coming out of Pretoria down to Joburg. Well, not light. It's always going to be busy, but a lot lighter today than you might have been expecting. And that's very strange for a Thursday, got to say, but it's probably a mid-month vibe. The Durban situation, the N2 going north, a breakdown before Gateway in amongst the roadwork. So there is a backlog from the Komashu Highway as you line up to get through that. Little bit of traffic coming out of Pietermaritzburg down to Market Road. Nothing too desperate, but may well point to something that's just broken down there. And Cape Town, the N1 inbound, pretty heavy today from Gil Besson, just coming down sort of Plattercliff Hill in towards Monte Vista territory and down through to a crash just before you get to Sable Road. Earlier collision on Nelson Mandela Boulevard. Inbound is finally being cleared, but it has left a backlog of traffic on the N2 this morning, which is pretty heavy coming through from the Langa side. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
Tension and drama will go higher than the rooftop between the Atlas Lions and Chipolopolo. Both nations are chasing 3 points. This is the Total Energies African Nations Championship 2024. Witness the superb African contest, Morocco versus Zambia, this Thursday, 14 August at 4 p.m. Live everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Yeah, I'm watching the reporting of Griselda Lewis coming out of that area around Maponya Mall, where there's now a community protest, as the community had said that they would be taking to the streets, expressing their unhappiness and really their outrage about the incident that happened last night, the violence that occurred in and around that area. So it's a story that we will continue to watch throughout the day here on SAFM and across all the SABC News platforms. problems. But for now, let me play one or two of your voice notes. Someone here, and I'm intrigued, someone wants to talk about owning a gun. I wonder what that is about.
Morning, Chulas. You know, growing up as a young man in South Africa, I never thought there would be a day whereby I would think of owning a gun. But now, looking at the level of crime, looking at the lawlessness in this country, I've changed my mind. And on top of that, as an e-hailing driver, I see that I'm not safe. Without a gun, I'm not safe. And that is not the country that we're supposed to be living in. Yes, man.
Yeah. I can tell that just from your voice. Those who have the authority and monopoly of violence, being the state, when they are found wanting, not wanting in terms of meting out violence and responding with violence in every situation, but just maintaining that law and order such that those who should not be meting out violence in society should not be able to do that. When they fail to curb violence, I guess is the point that I'm making. It leads to that overall feeling of feeling unsafe generally in the country.
Now what's happening? We were complaining. Now Uber drivers, they are planning to shut down the airport during G20 event, just to embarrass this government, because it's useless government. No, man, this is not okay at all.
Sure. Is anybody listening? Let me go to one that wants to reflect on the conversation we had earlier on with Sikonathi Mantshantsha around the expose into the Government Pensions Administration Agency and the building that they're leasing from an owner, quote unquote, non-owner, someone who doesn't in actual fact own the building, but is leasing it out to the GPAA for the next 10 years at the cost of close to R1 billion.
Hola Thulas, usifito kwathema. Usikonathi Mantshantsha wenza dume ngazo ngoku. Investigating, reporting the news and bringing out the truth to the light. That's where he belongs, than being the spin doctor for these failing state-owned entities. Thank you.
He takes no prisoners, does Sikonathi Mantshantsha. Let me take this one very quickly as well. I think it's related to the same story.
Ash. I've been telling people for the longest time that I think there's something wrong with our pensions. I don't know what's happening with our pensions. First of all, there was this pressure to put through the two-pot system. Then now we're messing with the retirement age. And now these stories. I wonder if there are still pensions in there. I think somebody needs to investigate. Reboni from Limpopo.
Reboni, thank you for that. And I'll leave it there. It's a lot, guys. It's a lot. We're going through a lot as a country. But as always, thank you for engaging me and indulging me in conversation this morning. Let's do it again tomorrow. But don't go anywhere. The Talking Point is up next with Kethi Muhlahlana here on SAFM. But that's coming up just after the news at 9 a.m. with N. Musa. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane, and you've been briefed.
In our top stories, a man shot dead on the Cape Flats and Lusikisiki mass murder trial to continue. Good morning. A 38-year-old man has been shot and killed in Strandfontein on the Cape Flats and another wounded while sitting in a play park. Police spokesperson Wesley Tweaks says the motive for the attack is unknown. No arrests have been made.
A 38-year-old male was declared deceased on the scene by medical personnel, while a 40-year-old male was taken to a medical facility for medical treatment. According to reports, the victims were sitting in the play park when a grey vehicle stopped and the occupants got out of the vehicle, opened fire on the victims before fleeing the scene. The motive for the attack forms part of the police investigation. Murder and attempted murder cases were registered for investigation.
There's a heavy police presence at Maponya Mall in Soweto, where one person was killed and